Jonathan.
Welcome back, everybody. All right. It looks like everybody has rejoined. I don't see Matthew Roberts.
Will, I'm.
Oh, there you are. Okay, Tony McKnight.
I think I'm here.
Okay. Tony McKnight, have you joined? Okay, so the only person missing is Tony. All right.
Motion to go in open session.
We already are.
Okay.
So with that, I will read the public charge. I'll call this meeting to order. The Orange County Board of Education pledges to its citizens to conduct its business in a courteous and productive manner, showing respect for fellow board members, staff, and its citizens. The board asks its citizens to conduct themselves with the same courtesy towards both school personnel and each other. As per board policy, Robert's Rule of Order will be used to conduct meetings. A moment of silence will be observed before each meeting. In addition to the moment of silence at each meeting held at a school site, the board will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. The board asks that you check your cell phone and other electronic devices to be certain that they are either turned off or on vibrate to avoid interruptions of the meeting. All right, with that, we will take a moment of silence. All right, thank you. The next we have the agenda adoption. Do we have a motion for the agenda adoption?
Motion to adopt the agenda. Second.
Okay. Motion was from Sarah. The second was from Hillary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Agenda is adopted. We're going to move down to the consent agenda. I do see that I did not get any comments for any items on the agenda. Can you confirm that, Todd?
I checked about 5 minutes ago. I'll check again and let you know if I see anything new.
Excellent.
No comments.
All right. With that, the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, are you just? Maybe I'm missing something. Are you skipping board member comments?
Yes, I've asked the board to hold that to the end of the meeting. That way we can allow for more time.
Okay.
Thank you, Will.
All right. The consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
And Will, just one last thing. Could that be a revised personnel report then, sir? On the
Yes.
consent agenda.
Yes.
Will, on the consent agenda, there's one policy. Are we going to get into actual policy readings? I'm a little confused on. There's one policy I have a comment on. Is that under?
There's nothing, these are first readings. They are not under, they're under action. They are not under consent. The only thing under consent
Then,
is,
as long as they're not under consent, because I'm having a hard time following between two screens.
okay, yeah, there's minutes,
Bear with
personnel
me.
reports, gifts, and
Okay,
then
okay.
the meal pricing. That's what's under.
Okay, okay.
Did you have a motion?
No, I don't.
Well, I'll make a motion to go and approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. Dr. Halkiotis made the motion with Hillary McKenzie second. I did want to make one comment as part of the discussion before getting the votes. I'm very proud to see we are still continuously getting support from our community with over $2,000 in donations for food. I think that is fantastic given the state we're in and all the needs in our community. All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, we are now into the action items. The first action item is the Mental Health Awareness Month. Do we have a board member that's willing to read?
I'll read it if you like.
Thank you, sir.
Orange County Board of Education Resolution to Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas May 2020 has been designated National Mental Health Awareness Month by the American Psychological Association, and whereas mental illness can affect anyone and can develop at any time, its effects spread well beyond the individual to families, friends, and coworkers. And whereas addressing the complex mental health needs of our students and families is a critical responsibility. And whereas 37% of students with a mental health condition age 14 and older drop out of school, the highest dropout rate of any disability group per the National Institute of Mental Health. And whereas it is appropriate that time should be set up apart each year for our thoughts towards our children's mental health and well-being. And whereas the Orange County Schools recognize that the education of our students with mental health concerns from preschool to graduation requires meaningful collaboration with teachers, counselors, social workers, families, and community. Therefore, be it resolved that the Orange County Board of Education proclaims May 2020 to be Mental Health Awareness Month. And be it further resolved that the Orange County Board of Education is committed to inspiring an environment conducive to learning and to ensure future opportunities for all of our students with mental health concerns.
Thank you, Sarah. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Wow. Now I understand why Tanya asked me to do that. So I got Brenda as the for the motion, and I got Dr. H as the second. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thanks everybody. Second is Teacher Appreciation Week. Do we have a volunteer to read the resolution for teacher appreciation?
I'm happy to if you'd like.
Thank you, Hillary.
Orange County Board of Education resolution to honor and recognize Teacher Appreciation Week. Whereas Orange County Schools teachers are responsible for shaping the hearts and minds of nearly 7,500 students in order to ensure that they all have an equal chance at success in life through education. And whereas Orange County Schools teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, creating safe and loving school cultures, building deep partnerships with families and communities, collaborating with colleagues, and reflecting on their craft. And whereas Orange County Schools teachers go above and beyond expectations to fill many roles, such as counseling, mentors, role models, coaches, and motivators, even after graduation. And whereas our community and our country's future depends upon providing a quality education to all our students. And whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers in educating the children of this community. And whereas the Orange County Schools teachers have been given many challenges in this unprecedented new remote learning environment and spend countless hours to prepare, learn, and implement innovative approaches to engage our students and families. Therefore, be it resolved that the Orange County Board of Education proclaims May 4th week, 2020, to be Teacher Appreciation Week, and be it further resolved that the Orange County Board of Education strongly encourages all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our teachers for their dedication and devotion to their work.
I move the approval of the resolution for the Teacher Appreciation Week.
Second.
All right, so I have Brenda as the primary and Sarah as the secondary. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, Hillary,
Thank
for
you.
reading. All right. First item under policy first readings is the drug and alcohol testing of non-commercial and motor vehicles and other equipment operators.
Thank you, Mr. Atherton, board members, and Dr. Felder. I'd like to present for first reading policy 7241, drug and alcohol testing of commercial and non-commercial motor vehicle and equipment operators. The purpose of this policy are to help ensure the safe operations of school vehicles and to comply with federal law and regulations by establishing a comprehensive program for the drug and alcohol testing of school bus drivers and all other commercial and non-commercial motor vehicle operators employed by the Orange County Board of Education. The changes to the policy are as follows. In Section A, applicability, it includes language to ensure who is impacted by this policy. In Section C, testing, this section clarifies that the testing will be conducted by Human Resources in conjunction with other departments and outside contractors. It further adds language with regards to the use of CBD or cannabis. The section ends by clarifying what those cannabidiol products are with regards to drug testing and its impact on drug testing positives. At this time, I would request or ask for consideration, first reading for policy 7241, and stand ready to answer any questions that the board has at this time.
All right, any questions? All right, if there are no questions or comments, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have Hillary as the primary and secondary by Brenda.
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next policy is policy 2120, school board members code of ethics. Dr. Felder, is Jonathan, are you taking us through this one?
I'm happy to. This is the policy that came to the policy committee, was reviewed with care and approved to send to the board on first reading. It's the board's code of ethics policy, and it has two changes. One is to incorporate the board's existing policy on drug and alcohol-free workplace into the board's code of ethics. That's mostly a clarification, since board members are elected officials, to just clarify that the policy that applies to employees for a drug and alcohol-free zone, that also applies to board members. And then the second change is to create a bright line test for recusal of board members anytime there's any personnel related matters related to a family member as defined in the policy. And this does go farther in the way of a higher ethical standard than the model North Carolina School Boards Association's policy. And so those are the two proposed changes that the policy committee approved to send to the board for first reading.
All All right, are there any comments or questions from any of the board members?
Will, I have a question.
Okay, Matthew?
Um, Tying into a comment that Ms. McKenzie said at the other board member and at the policy meeting, that I'm not sure why we're changing this policy in the next one if it's not addressing what some board members thought was a conflict of interest. So I'm not understanding the purpose of this change.
The purpose of this change is to ensure that there's no question whether a board member recuses themselves in any discussion, whether it's a personnel issue, an issue of a bus, an issue of a contract. It's to cover all those items. It is not explicit in our policies today. And also this addresses the use of alcohol or drugs during.
This policy, does it address where there's potential board influence on employees' behavior?
Yes, it talks about a board member recusing themselves in all aspects relating to a family member, whether it's hiring, transferring, promoting, demoting, suspending, disciplining, conducting performance evaluations, or reviewing or investigating complaints of any kind. So it's very broad to say if a family member is involved as defined as an immediate family member in this policy that
Define, Jonathan, define
Sir.
immediate family member for me, please.
It's
listed in the policy. It's listed.
I want it on purpose.
Yeah, no problem. I will read it. It says an immediate family member includes not only the spouse of a board member, but also a child, parent, brother, sister, mother-in-law, father-in-law, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, grandmother, grandfather, grandson, granddaughter, stepmother, and stepfather of a board member.
I'm okay with it now.
Thank you.
All right. Before we get a motion, Tony, have you joined? Todd, can you reach out to Tony?
Reached out to him, and Joe is working with him as we speak.
Excellent. I appreciate that. All right. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So move.
Okay. So primary is Sarah, secondary with Matthew Roberts. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries. Next policy is policy 2121. Jonathan, can you take us through that one? I believe it's similar to the one we just reviewed.
Exactly. It incorporates the exact same language in your conflicts, where there's a listing of conflicts of interest. It goes on to specifically address making it a conflict for a board member to participate in all of the enumerated items that we just talked about in terms of a family member's employment. So this is just to make sure that the two policies are saying the same thing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Sarah with the primary, Brenda with the secondary. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next policy. This is the policy 3420, student promotion and accountability.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Dr. Felder. I would like to present for first reading policy 3420, student promotion and accountability. This policy was last approved on April 22nd, 2019. We're bringing forth a change to policy 3420 that was requested at the February 28th, 2020 policy committee meeting. The board policy committee reviewed the policy on April 24th and recommend it be brought to the full board for consideration and approval. As you can see that the changes for policy 3420 are in the abstract, as well as the changes are in section I, letter F, and it's on page 4 of the policy. I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, are there any questions from any board members? One of the changes I do know that was in here, just to highlight to the board, was there was wording in there that didn't allow, if you retook a course, which grade got used. It was, the wording implied it was the last grade, whether it was better or not. That has been fixed in this policy to allow the student to get the higher of the 2 grades.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Matthew Roberts with the motion and Dr. Halkiotis with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. The last policy on the agenda is policy 4342, student searches. We have to read through. Sarah Pitts?
Good evening, everyone. I would like to present to you for first reading policy 4342 on student searches. This policy was last approved on August 20, 2014. This policy grants school officials the authority to conduct reasonable searches of students and to seize students' unauthorized materials for the purpose of maintaining a safe and orderly environment. At this time, the proposed changes are as follows. It would be in section B, number 3. The first sentence would be to remove or strike out to locate illegal materials. Replace that with for bombs or explosive devices. That is the only recommended change at this time. So the superintendent recommends the proposed changes to section policy 4342, student searches. Are there any questions for me?
There's not a question, but I did, Dr. Halkiotis brought up in a previous meeting about the use of metal detectors, and I just wanted to highlight that during the discussion of this, the wording in the policy currently is that it is at the discretion right now whether you do or do not use it. So it is not, it must be done at events. It is an optional item to do at events. I just wanted to highlight that, Dr. H, because I know that you had brought that up.
Yeah, I just want to go on record and saying that I think that is a failure of that particular policy in keeping everybody safe. I hope nothing happens in the future, but you know, a lot of things happen.
All right, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second, Brenda.
Okay, we have the motion from Hillary, the second by Brenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes, opposed.
We have one dissension. Dr. Halkiotis. All right. The last item in our policy is more of the code of conduct. This is the first reading of the code of conduct. And Ms. Cobb, are you on?
Yes, sir, I am. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So at last week's policy committee meeting, we shared the new community code of conduct, character, and support. And in that meeting, we reviewed all of the changes that had been made at the advisement of the board attorney, as well as working with engaging schools. And so there was language changes. There were some rules that were changed so that they were matching, and then the attorney went back and reviewed all of the verbiage within the glossary to make sure that it was aligned with the current board policy, and gave us, and we took those directions, made those necessary changes, and we have shared those with board for review. So tonight we come before you asking that you will look at this code and ask that you will do a first reading and approval of the board of the code. And we wanted to share the implementation plan. I know that was one thing that was of concern. And so we want to share that plan with you tonight. And if you will look, Todd has put that up for me so that you can see that. Our implementation plan is as follows: May 12th through June 9th, 2020. That's when we would begin. If approved tonight, we would begin with round one, principals, APs, and the MTSS coordinators. They would have six. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Ms. Cobb. Todd, could you go to the second page, please? There you go. Okay, please continue. Sorry, Ms. Cobb.
Okay, I'm sorry. They would have 6 sessions, and in those sessions, they would discuss understanding and operationalizing the revised code. And then the second set of round of sessions would be for MTSS coordinators, who would be doing some turnkey code-related learning modules that they would then take back and work with staff beginning in August to work with those modules throughout the school year. Now, June through August, Engaging Schools has a very robust training plan that can be virtualized for parents. So it will begin with family engagement, communication to families, and information sessions, the publication of the revised code, and then a brief guide for school administrators for operationalizing the revised code, and then a plan for supervising and assessing school level code implementation. So all of this work surrounds us continuously investigating and assessing the work that we're doing to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Are there any questions that I can answer in reference to the code?
Sarah?
Thank you, Ms. Cobb, for this. I'm excited to vote for the code tonight. I had a couple of things that on reading it again, I just had a question about. And I didn't write down the page numbers, but I'll read to you what it says. So one is about use of force, and it says school personnel may use reasonable force to control behavior or to restrain or remove a person from the scene in those situations when necessary. Number one under the list was to correct students. And the other examples made sense to me. They were like, to break up a fight and things like that, but I wasn't sure what to correct students meant. What does that mean, using physical force to correct a student?
So what I believe it means, I would have to go back and read the whole section. I apologize, but what I just hearing you read it, what I believe it means is if a student is physically harming and or disrupting another student, and that teacher may have to help the student out of the classroom, or try to separate the students until someone else from administration can get to that room to assist.
Okay.
But I will go back and review and try to find that. If you find the page number, that would be great.
I will. I will look it up in just a moment. And then I just had a couple of other little follow-up questions.
Could I interject on that one? That the reason that's in there is that mimics statute. I'm not saying you have to mimic statute in it, but it does that does sort of mirror statute. But go ahead.
Should I ask him a couple of other things, or should we pass this around?
Oh no, please.
Okay. Let's see. ISS. It talks about removal from learning time when one of the examples there is a student is struggling academically and their frustration and inability to focus is intensifying. And in some ways, I understand that, but I also feel like there's a conflict with the loss of learning time and if it's like, if it's not productive learning time, I understand you might need a different setting, but I'm curious. I would be curious to know how we reconcile the training around that and really making sure that we're maximizing learning time for students.
So one of the ways that I see using that is the reason behind us having the MTSS team as a part of the implementation of the code of conduct, because then the teachers would go back in their MTSS teams and discuss these concerns about this student, and the removal may be removing in order to provide some more one-on-one focus time around whatever that learning is, so that the student may be able to really focus in on what the teacher is saying, and it takes away the possibility of embarrassment in front of peers, having to get extra support more than normal. So that's the way that I read that, and that's why we are looking at pulling that MTSS team into all that we're doing around implementation of the code, so that as a student moves along the MTSS continuum, as they need extra support, that team is there to be able to set that out for that staff.
Great. The last thing I had, it talked about school dress codes, and it talked about schools being able to set additional, I think maybe it was like reasonable dress codes or something like that. And, you know, we did work last year to revise the district-wide dress code. And I would like to know where to find those dress codes to understand what reasonable additional dress codes mean. I mean, I was surprised that schools might have additional dress codes to what the district has. So
I thought that was actually in our policy, that they were supposed to inform us if they weren't following the district dress code.
I would have to look, but the last that I remember, I changed the around dress code to see board policy. And so
I'll see if I can find the page number for that and for the other thing that I mentioned, and I'll send those to you. Thank you so much.
So Sarah, I do have, one of the questions I have is the exact one you had, which is, it's actually on page 29, where it talks about to correct a student. I have concerns with that statement as well, especially when it comes to our EC students. I definitely do not want to have a scenario where someone that is not used to an EC student may drag them, if you will, away. So I would definitely like some words around, or more clarity on correct student, what that means. It seems like it has a lot of interpretation.
Will?
Matthew?
The one on the dress code issue, that there needs to be real clear clarity. Is it a district? Is it going to be an in-school dress code policy? That if we have a district policy, we go by it. If we want individual schools, then the board decides that each school gets to set it. The second one is the ISS.
So, Dr. Felder, did you have a comment? Yeah, hold on, Matthew. I just wanted to confirm
That's
that
okay.
Dr. Felder had a comment on what you were.
No, that's totally okay.
Yeah, not that we're disrupting your time.
I'm sorry, I don't have a comment, but I believe that was Ms. Cobb.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Cobb, did you have
That's
a
okay.
comment on the dress code? I see it's
Yes,
on page
I was-
69.
Yes, if you, well, it depends on which edition you're looking at, but if you're looking at the PDF one, it probably is on that page, but in the infraction section, I'm looking at it, and under dress code, we just say see policy 4316. So we have changed that because we want to follow closely to what board policy says. That was one of the things that the attorney and I worked on this week before last.
Yeah.
The
Ms.
language
Cobb,
that I saw was on page 69.
yes.
Okay.
Okay. So that answers my question. That board policy takes precedence over school policy.
Yeah, but I think the question at hand, Matthew, in conjunction with what Sarah's saying, is the way that this section reads. It says the board prohibits any appearance of clothing that violates the standards for appearance and clothing established in this policy, or any additional reasonable dress code adopted and publicized by the school. That's the sentence that kind of says, hey, in addition to policy 4316, the schools may have their ability to do that. So that's why I believe that may be a conflict between the policies, that there's only a district policy of dress code.
And
I'll let
Will,
everybody else speak on it now.
I just looked at the our board policy has that language, so that's where Ms. Cobb got it from. That may be something we want to bring back to policy, to take out that language that references any other reasonable dress code. There is a reference, I think, in our policy to you can ban particular signs of gang activity and things like that, but maybe being clearer in the board policy makes sense.
If I could interject on this one, this is Jonathan. I do think it would make sense just to do one last double check on to make sure there's alignment. Because what your dress code says in current policy is individual schools are free to specify additional examples of dress or appearance that are prohibited at that school, but it needs to be with the approval of the superintendent and after consultation with the board attorney and with notice to the Board of Education. And so
I'm okay with that wording.
So I would say that you know, between this and second reading, which is consent, we will make sure that that exact same language is in there unless anybody has an objection to that.
Well, that makes sense to me.
Bill, I still got one more.
Yes, no, please continue.
Okay, the other one was with ISS, and this one is a hard one. And it that you have a student that's interrupting a class. Are the teachers going to have to meet with the MTSS coordinators before they can remove the student or after?
So the way that it is set up now with the school administration, the teacher and the school administrators can say that a student needs to go to ISS, cool down, reset, or what have you, whatever that school was doing at that time. But they can remove that student, and then that's when the teacher would go to the MTSS if that is a continuing behavior. They would then go to the MTSS team to talk about what is being seen in other classes and what other strategies the teacher may use to try to help with that behavior.
Okay, one other clarification point. So the first time that the student has a meltdown, that the teachers can respond in an appropriate manner and say, hey, you need a timeout. But if it is a continuing problem, then you're going to meet with the MTSS and try to come up with a plan to help the student cope with it.
Yes, sir.
I'll have a bad day.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. So it's not like Sharita has a bad day today, I get removed from my class, and she goes directly to MTSS. I don't know that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's the way that the code is set up, the code offers strategies that the teacher can use to kind of help with my behavior in the classroom prior to ever moving to a pull out of the classroom type situation.
But the first day, if the teacher feels, hey, they need a timeout, they're going to be able to have a timeout.
If they are able to speak with the administration to work through that, yes, sir.
The principal.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
All right. Any other board members have questions or comments?
Well, I do have one. It's Jonathan after any board member speaks up.
Any other comments from any board member? Okay, Jonathan?
Yes, on the reasonable force provision, and again, ultimately the board's policy can reflect the language that you want. It can't conflict with statute, but I did want to state that 115C 390.3 is the statute, and it's entitled reasonable force. And it says that school personnel may use reasonable force to control the behavior or remove a person from the scene in those situations when necessary for any of the following reasons. And I won't read them all, but the language is to correct students. I totally understand the board members raising that issue and having concern about that language. I just wanted to make sure you all know where it came from.
No, Jonathan, I appreciate the clarity. Again, my concern is making sure that we have the appropriate staff addressing the correct students of needs, especially in a case like that where the student may not understand or that person may not realize there's a special needs situation. So clarity on that would be great. If there are no other comments for this one, I would just recommend to the board an approval of this first reading and approving the first round of training for May 12th. That would allow us to continue forward with the first round that Ms. Cobbs had mentioned, and also allow our community to come back and give us more comments if necessary before second reading.
So move.
Brenda.
Okay, Matthew with the motion and Brenda with the second. All in favor?
Well, could be the vote, and and so that would be cleaning up the language about the dress code to add the requirements that you have to jump through in order for a school to have their own additional rule.
Correct, and clarity on the correcting students.
Okay, could you just give us one more sentences on the clarity around correcting the students? I mean, are you asking that just be pulled out of the policy to just de-emphasize it as a basis for reasonable suspicion? The statute still exists, but if you want to just pull it to avoid it, or are you asking for some examples? I just want to know a little bit more before we bring it on second reading.
I mean, I'm not asking for the complete wording to be removed, but something to be added to say, in cases of EC or other, students, extra care needs to be considered or something. I just feel like it's too open where it just gives everybody access to grab a student and push them.
So I think Mr. Atherton, where you're talking about maybe reasonable force is the use of limited physical contact or restraint to the extent necessary by trained and qualified staff to establish a safe environment.
Yes.
Jonathan, I guess I will work with Stephen to get that in, as well as the dress code.
Yep. Thank you. I know you had a motion in a second, but I just wanted clarity on what the next steps were. So thank you.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you all for all y'all's hard work in getting us to this point. This is definitely a huge change for our district, for a positive outlook for our students. Thank you. All right. Now we're on to section 3, contracts. And first up, the security vestibules, package 1 and 2. Ms. Pitts.
Good evening, everyone. I am going to start off just saying that our security vestibules, along with the rest of our contracts that we're presenting tonight, are a result of the 2013 Corley Redfoot assessment, and also a result of the 2014 and 2016 Safe Haven security assessment throughout the district. So with that being said, I am going to allow Nick Mincy, our Director of Facilities and Construction, to go over the contracts for you tonight.
Nick, are you on?
3 items tonight. The first item is concerning considering awarding a bid and approving a construction contract to HM Kern Corporation contingent upon the attorney's approval. The construction and installation of security entrance vestibules at various schools throughout the district. So following a request for proposal process, the Board of Education endorsed Mosley Architects design and the project management for projects at various schools, including school security, including school security entrance vestibules, part of a school renovation design contract package. This was done back on June 10th of 2019. The scope of work included security entrance vestibules for the following schools: Cameron Park, Central Elementary, New Hope, A.L. Stanback Middle School, C.W. Stanford, Gravely Hill, Cedar Ridge, and Orange High. So utilizing the designs provided by Mosley, the project was divided into 2 construction packages. So the first package tonight is Central Elementary, New Hope, Gravely Hill, and Cedar Ridge High School. The second package will be for A.L. C.W. Stanford, and Orange High. The Cameron Park project will be part of a contract that we'll get to a little bit later, but it was part of the design package worked through with Mosley architects. So bids were solicited and publicly opened on March 10th. 5 companies responded. HM Kern Corporation submitted the lowest responsible bid, and a copy of the certified bid text have been attached to your packages. So it's been a long process for facilities and maintenance. We have had multiple meetings concerning these projects. We met with the principals and the staff early on in the design phase. And then after design work with the architect firm, we met again to discuss everything that had been incorporated. We've incorporated suggestions and clarifications that came from Safe Haven. And we have also included and worked with SRO officers to include their suggestions and their requests. All of this also was based all around the 2014 Corley Redfoot assessment that was helping design the criteria for this package. There are PDFs that are available for these projects to show the existing floor plans and the new construction floor plans. So, always, Orange County School strives to provide a safe learning environment and working environments for all student and staff. The final impact for this project is as follows. Funding for this project has been allocated through capital improvement funding. The bid packages ranged from $247,000 to $370,000 for package 1, and the range for package 2 was $333,000 to $470,000, and that would include the alternates that were requested for those jobs. HM Kern Corporation submitted the lowest responsible bid for both packages. They were both responsive in the amounts of $247,000 for package 1 and $333,000 for package 2. So we'd like to recommend this time that the superintendent makes a recommendation that the Board of Education award a bid to HM Kern Corporation not to exceed $247,000 for package 1 and $333,000 for package 2. Contingent upon return and review of the contract documents, to authorize the superintendent to approve the change orders pursuant to board policy up to the available funding, and authorize the board to sign the contract on behalf of the board. Any questions?
Will?
Matthew?
Okay, just one for clarity, because we've got item 1, which is package 1 and 2, item 2, Cameron Park, phase 1, item 3, Efland Cheeks. If we go with phase 1 and phase 2, does that include all 3 of those?
Okay, so for clarity, package 1 and package 2 are for 7 schools. They do not include Cameron Park, do not include Efland Cheeks.
Okay, hold on a second. I need to write some stuff down because I might have a lot of questions.
Okay, while you're doing that, are there other questions from other board members?
Mr. Roberts, this is Sarah Pitts. If I could clarify for you, the package 1 and package 2 were divided that way in order to get all of the projects done.
And wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute, please.
We had to put those in 2 separate packages. So we're package 1 and package 2 aren't picking different packages. They're 2 separate contracts. They include all the schools that we did the vestibule design for. We just pulled Cameron Park Security Vestibule out separate and added that to their school renovation project. So these include all of the schools, and they will all have vestibules done prior to the start of school, the next upcoming school year.
Sarah, does that include Efland Cheeks? Does that include Efland Cheeks? I had a very bad echo, and I apologize. Will, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Matthew. So I'll just try to repeat. I'll paraphrase. Packages 1 and 2 do not cover Efland Cheeks. That's going to be the third item we cover. Is it separate? And also,
okay, I'll come to that later. I'm okay with that.
Okay. So right now, just the packages 1 and 2.
Okay. Now, my next question on package 1 and 2, when I go into Guilford County schools, and I do, I ring a button. I go in a little hallway. I go into where I can see the office area. And at no point, unless a student opens a door for me, can I get into the hallway to get me into the school.
Yes, sir. That is the same intent that we are working towards with this package. You will enter a lobby area that will be controlled access from the receptionist or office employee that's forward facing, and you won't go any farther into the campus until you are buzzed into a additional area of the campus.
Okay. When they buzz me in, I'm going to go into the office area. And then before I can actually go into a hallway to get into a classroom, they have to buzz a door to let me into that hallway.
Yes, sir. We will be following the same protocol here as well.
Okay. Now, the only flaw on this is that high school students will open doors. I'm not that we can't control what they're doing, but if the adult is doing what they're saying, there's a video that they're going to see me. I come in, they verify who I am, and then they're going to buzz me into a hallway.
So yes, that is correct. You will enter the lobby. You'll have to speak to whoever is at what we call the transaction window. Some schools have more than one window just to make sure we don't have a lapse in coverage. And once that individual clears you, that you've been through lobby guard and done the lobby guard assignment, once you get through that, then yes, sir. You're absolutely correct. It's unfortunate in some cases a student can come to a door and crack a door open and let somebody in.
We can't control that, but I'm okay.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure that I at least have to have somebody buzz me in other than a high school student.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. That's correct.
Well, that's all I had on this one.
All right. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm
Sarah.
using this hand raising thing in WebEx. Am I supposed to be doing that or just shouting out?
If you can, I cannot see it. The only person that can see it is Todd.
Oh, okay. All right, then I will just shout out. First of all, I am just very, very thrilled that we are getting these vestibules in there. Mr. Mincy, Ms. Pitts, I know that like all of these security upgrades have been like bit by bit, right, with the controlled entry at the front door and this, and I'm just super thrilled to be seeing these plans on paper right now. So congratulations. I have a couple of questions. One is, how do the costs for these contracts compare to what we'd estimated in the CIP? I'm assuming, I think that's where these were, and I'm curious if this sort of lined up to what we'd planned.
I'm gonna let Sarah for right now.
See her, I wonder if we lost her. There she
is.
So yes, in these two projects, they are both right at maybe a little bit of wiggle room for construction, what we had budgeted, but we will fall under our cap amount for the CIP funding available.
Awesome. And then are any of the contractors minority-owned businesses? And I'm curious what steps we take to solicit bids from minority-owned businesses.
Oops.
I think it's like that because y'all are y'all in the same room?
We are.
That's why I'm doing that.
Social distance, chief operations office.
Okay, as long as you're a good 6 feet. Good. Okay.
All right. So, yes, that is part of the request that is made in the proposed packages from the architect's firm. That goes out as a request to everyone who is putting in bids for this work, is that they attempt every effort to recruit and to hire minority and WBE businesses.
So these particular companies then, I take it, are not minority-owned businesses?
So I would need to look at some more information. There could be subcontract vendors working for these contractors that may have that qualification. To my knowledge, this vendor, WM Current, is not qualified as that.
Okay.
But they certainly may have subcontractors working for them who are.
Okay, great. At some point, I would love side topic for school board conversation. What is our process for sort of putting out these bids and recruiting minority-owned businesses to bid? That's all I had.
All right. Any other board member? All right. I did have a couple of questions. So has HM Kern done any work in Orange County schools before, or is this their first project with
To
us?
my knowledge, this is their first.
Okay. Did we talk to any other schools that they have done work for to see their results?
Yes, absolutely. They actually, if I'm not mistaken, they have worked directly with architectural firms doing school vestibule projects. And Mosley Architects that we're working on the projects has worked directly with HM Kern.
Okay, good. The other question I had is, looking at the drawings, I appreciate the drawings and the details in the drawings. I can see where it says remote and, just like you're saying, the two-door approach. The question I had is, for example, in Orange, where you have, the three doors there that are currently the main entrances, and those would now not be. My question is, what are the fire procedures when people are in the lobby? So say that we have, parent day and all these parents are coming in and they're all in the vestibule, and all of a sudden we have a fire alarm or something that goes on where they need to get out. Are they going to their main exit would be out the same door that they came in, and would they be able to push the doors open, or are they locked, or just curious how that physically works?
Yeah, so all of the that we have in the district is all a crash bar style. You would hit the release panel and the door would open and allow you to go out. So all of the access and controls and door hardware for all of these projects always allows full egress, but it only is restricting access. So if you are in the lobby currently, even though there's electronic strike there, you still are able to egress.
Okay, so I guess to just further this, and I know you probably don't have the orange open, but there are three doors essentially, not including the double door. So the double door that you come in, there's the door where the receptionist would buzz you and you get out into the commons. And then there's a third one that gets you into the reception area. So the crash bar, I believe what you're telling me, I just wanted to confirm, is only in the double doors where you come in. Like they can go crash bar the entrance to commons, which would defeat the whole purpose of having the buttons there.
That's correct. The receptionist at the front she's going to have a door release to allow you in the front door so you can come in. And then she's also going to have one to allow you in the lobby.
Okay.
There will be no other access unless you are staff and have a key.
Okay. And the other question I had, so I have just a few, so bear with me. So where would staff enter? Would they be still allowed to enter through those other three doors as they come in? They would not have to go in through the vestibule?
So in the morning, there will still have to follow our open door procedure in the morning for school access. Those first hour or so when all the staff and all the students are arriving, we can't lock everything down at that point. That just would not work. But once first bell hits, the plan is the custodians typically now go around and lock all the door, what we call them door latch or door dog. They unlatch those so that all the doors remain locked. From that point forward, everybody is going to have to come through the office and get buzzed in, unless you are a staff member that has a key.
Okay, so let me ask that differently, because I heard what you said and I don't know if I'm concerned or happy, but So if you're a teacher and you're coming in and it's before first bell,
Yes.
can you badge in, or you would use your key, or you saying the doors are unlocked? I'm just trying to get a feel for the state of the school before first bell.
Yes, if you have a badge, you will be able to act where we have card readers. Obviously, these projects will be phased due to funding, but yes, if you
Interject
come
one
to the
thing if
front
I
door,
could.
you have a badge.
This is Jonathan. I do want to make sure that we don't get into any confidential security issues and vulnerabilities in open session. So, I mean, I think we're at an okay level, but I don't want to get into much more detail if we could in open session on this.
Okay. Jonathan, I agree. Will, I have some other questions, and you're hitting on some I'm saying, because I've been in Guilford County and I know what they're doing.
So I would recommend those lower level go back to our closed session discussion for those level of details. I agree, Jonathan. I'm not looking for that level, just curiosity on, you know, that teachers will still be able to get into the buildings and out of the buildings.
Yes.
The last question.
No,
Oh, go ahead.
no access exiting a building is ever allowed. So no matter who you are in the building, you always have full access to exit. That's fire. So none of these devices would ever restrict that.
Okay. Yeah, that was my main concern, was the fire access of if something happened. So the other question I had was more about the timing of this. These will be done over summer, because I do see like these are structural changes to the building entranceway.
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
perfect.
And
That's all the questions I had.
Will, before I can vote on this, I need to know what's going to happen to Efland Cheeks.
Well, this does not include package 1 and 2 does not include Efland Peaks.
Will, I understand that, but I also know that we have had people run through that school before with guns.
Okay, so let me ask you a clarity question.
Yes, sir.
Are you wanting us to go talk about Efland Cheeks before?
I want to know what we're going to do on the Efland Cheeks entry.
Okay.
It's not on 1 and 2, and I asked that.
Right.
I know that it's more than one time there's been a concern about guns on that campus. I want to know how we're going to secure it.
Okay, so Mr. Roberts, the third item of our contract section is solely for Efland Cheeks.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a demo. I can see. I mean, when you open it up, it shows you the demolition, and then it shows you the changes to the physical layout of the building.
And I'm wanting the whole board to hear this discussion before we approve the first two.
Comment.
So they're not connected. I mean, they're different schools, but okay. Dr. H, you had a comment?
Yeah, just so that you know, HM Kern is a very reputable company. They've been around for a long time. One of the most recent projects they've done here in Orange County is the addition onto the senior center that's attached to the Sportsplex in Hillsborough.
All right. Any other comments from any board members? Any other board members?
I motion to approve security packages 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay.
And that's using the language set forth in the recommendation, because that includes a lot of stipulations. Thanks.
Okay. The motion was from Ms. Hillary McKenzie and seconded by Dr. H. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Package 1 is approved. Let's move to package 2, which is Kennedy Park.
All right. So
Approve? Oh, sorry. Is it? Oh, wait. Maybe I misunderstood. Are we approving each of those? We just approved both of those at once, right?
Well, no, we have package 1 and 2 in section I, and now we're at section 2, which is Cameron.
We're ready for a presentation, not a motion. Okay, got it.
But Sarah, we did not address Efland Cheeks. I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
Right, that's number 3. Yep.
That's number
I
3.
understand.
We're on number 2 for Cameron Park. So go ahead, Nat.
All right. So second item, Cameron Park Elementary renovation phase 1. So to consider award a bid and approving a construction project contingent upon attorney review for phase 1 of the school renovation project at Cameron Park Elementary. The Orange County Board of Education completed a comprehensive facilities assessment in 2013 and a safety assessment in 2016. Projects were identified to address needs outlined in those safety assessments. Staff solicited firms to submit qualifications for building renovations, design services for capital upgrades at various schools in the district. Following this request, the Board of Education endorsed Mosley Architects for the design and the project management of these projects. Next project is Cameron Park Elementary School. This package was on June 10th of 2019, and the scope of work included interior and exterior renovations, including but not limited to the following items: the kitchen and the cafeteria dining room renovations that will replace equipment and reroute sewer and grease trap utilities, replacement of exterior windows in a phased project, including the entrance doorway, the safety vestibule area, the bus entry storefront, and the ramp connector storefront. Exterior stucco replacement removal and replace the existing stucco veneer and wall insulation where necessary. Other improvements include interior floor renovations, environmental hazard abatement, interior LED lighting upgrades, and a streetscape upgrade. And the major improvement would be HVAC, mechanical improvements to the boiler room, piping, and fan coil units in classrooms and adjacent areas. So the bids utilizing the phase 1 designs provided from Mosley were solicited and publicly opened March 24th. 7 companies responded, with HM Kern once again submitting the lowest responsible bid. A copy of that certified bid tab is attached. Not included in your abstract is the photo that we're looking at on the screen for a phase 1 and phase 2 project. You can see the hash lines indicating phase 1, which includes the front building, the admin area, the cafeteria, the kitchen, boiler room, and down to the connector leading to the lower hallway. That is included for phase. So Orange County Schools strives to provide a healthy and learning environment for all students and staff. The financial impact of this project: funding for this project has been allocated through bond funds, capital improvement, and deferred maintenance funds. The base bids ranged from $2,053,000 to $3,566,300. HM Kern submitted the lowest responsible bid in the amount of $2,137,400, including alternates to the plan. So recommendation for action is the superintendent recommends the Board of Education award a bid to HM Kern not to exceed the $2,137,400, contingent upon attorney review of the contract documents, and to authorize the superintendent to approve change orders pursuant to board policy to the available funding amount, and authorize the chair to sign the contract on behalf of the board. Questions?
Comment?
Go ahead, Dr. H.
I would respectfully ask that somebody please make sure that the sink in the media specialist's office in the media center be remedied so it actually works. Those folks have not been able to wash their hands in their sink for the last 3 or 4 years. It has been brought to the attention of prior administrations, and nobody did anything about it. So I just want to put that out there on the public record out of respect to the people that work in the media center. They need a sink that works in there. The sink is there, but it doesn't function. The question I have is for Nick. Are the floor fan coil units going to be removed? Are the new units going to be hung from the ceiling?
The fan coil units in the classrooms will all be gone, and we are going to a single unit that is produced by Bard, and it is a self-contained unit that will go on the exterior wall of the classroom. This allows us to provide dehumidified fresh air to the spaces, and will also allow us to provide ductwork to create air circulation so we can improve air quality in the spaces.
Just thank you for that. As an aside, I'm particularly interested in that because that's an ongoing problem at Cameron Park for years. Any literature you have in that unit, if you would send it to me, I would appreciate it. I'd like to see about that outside attached wall unit. I appreciate it. And thank you for the work you and Sarah have been doing.
Yes, sir.
So Nick, just to follow into that, that unit also allows room control, right, at each room versus centralized temperature?
That is correct. They will be, we call them zoned. They are zoned.
Perfect. I know that's a big issue with whether there's sunlight in the room or not. And
Okay, Will,
go ahead, Matthew.
my question is the same as yours. When you say zoned, is it for each classroom or hallway?
Yes, these are individual to the classroom. They have their own supply and return for each location. So there will
So each classroom is controlling themselves.
That's correct.
And that's where we need to be going. Okay.
All right. Any other questions, Sarah?
I have the same question about how this compares to what we budgeted in the CIP. I remember we moved up the money versus, but I don't remember how much it was.
Sarah, I'll let you have that one.
So we haven't ran complete numbers yet, but looking at phase one, I can tell you that phase one is scheduled to take up about 2/3 of the budget that we have for the whole entire project.
Okay.
Now, completing a majority of the bulk items during this project, but we are currently working with Mosley to figure out phase two that will come in, if there are any alternates that we could reduce on, or if we may need potential funding to finalize phase two. We're still working through that right now.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Other questions?
Can I address that last one, Will?
Sure.
So this project, due to phasing, they are significantly different in the fact that on the first one, we will be doing heavy mechanical work in the boiler room area. We also will be doing the kitchen renovation, so that higher level of cost won't be in the second phase. And the exterior work along the streetscape and along the front of the building, that work also is only isolated to phase one. So phase two cost for construction is going to be significantly less as far as an overall project.
All right. So I just had a couple of questions. So one is the LED lighting in phase one or phase two?
It would be both.
Okay, as you progress through the building?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, awesome. The other one I had is on the streetscaping that y'all had talked about. I thought we had heard in one of these discussions that the dumpster was going to be physically removed from the front of the building. Is that true?
Thank you, Will.
I'm just asking. I heard that, and I think Dr. H told us that was a battle of realtors and others that would pay to move it.
Needs to be moved.
So I'm just curious if that's included or not.
So one restriction that we had on that is truck access. So it is not in the same location that it currently is. We have relocated it. No, sir, I do not remember off the top of my head exactly the location sitting here right now, but we have relocated it. It is not in the same place. But in order for the truck, we worked with Orange County to determine where they felt comfortable to get a truck out safely. And no, it is not all the way at the back of the school. Sorry to say that.
What would it take to get it in the back of the school?
It would take substantial repaving. And it would also take probably a reconfiguration of some patterns internally on the campus. And it would facilitate potentially some more tree removal. It was multifaceted. It also provided in the fact that a lot of deliveries and the majority of the waste that's disposed is at the kitchen and cafeteria, which is directly adjacent to the dumpster.
All right, understatement. Okay, I'm fine with that.
All right, I did have one last question, was on the door next to the cafeteria. There was discussion at some point that that would be an entrance. Is that still true or changed?
As a normal entrance coming in through the cafeteria for use, I do not believe that to be the case. The plan is still to bring to the front.
No issue. I just wanted clarity because we had heard it in one of our early discussions, and I just wanted to confirm that it was or wasn't. So no problem. All right, that's all the questions I had. Any other board members? Any additional questions?
Move the superintendent's recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay. So the motion was made by Dr. Halkiotis, second by Tony. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Phase 1 Cameron Park is approved. Efland Cheeks project.
All right, Mr. Roberts, here we're ready. All right, so Efland Cheeks. So we are awarding a bid and approving a construction contract contingent upon attorney review for the building front entrance renovation and installation of security entrance vestibule at Efland Cheeks Global Elementary. Following a request for proposal, Board of Education endorsed Mosley Architects for the design and project management for projects at various schools, including school security entrance vestibules as part of a school renovation design contract package in June 10th of 2019. Scope of work included new secure entranceway at the front of the school, security vestibule installation, and interior-exterior renovations for Efland Cheeks Global Elementary. Bids utilizing the designs provided by Mosley Architects were solicited and publicly opened on March 31st of 2020. 4 companies responded, with Bar Construction submitting the lowest responsible bid. A copy of the certified bid tab is attached. Orange County School strives to provide a safe and secure working and learning environment for students and staff, and the funding for this project has been allocated through capital improvement funds. The bids ranged from $227,277, including alternates, to $337,860. Bar Construction submitted the lowest responsible bid that was responsive in the amount of $227,277, including the alternates. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education award a bid to Bar Construction not to exceed the amount of $227,277, contingent upon attorney review of the contract documents, to authorize the superintendent to approve change orders pursuant to board policy up to the available funding, and authorize the board chair to sign the contract on behalf of the board. Do we have questions?
Question.
I'll wait.
My question is the same question, Ms. Pitts, as the other ones. Did we have this in the CIP, and how is this stacking up in terms of cost? You're muted right now.
Sorry, while I was sharing my screen, I couldn't get myself unmuted. We are actually under budget on this project. Should be able to complete this project. Any issues with grading that we may have should fit under this budget. All environmental hazards which have to be removed as part of this project will be covered, and we should have enough money to potentially buy furniture that will be re-needed or will be needed for the renovation of the front office.
Awesome.
All right, Matthew?
Okay, Jonathan, you may have to shut me off in a minute, and I'm okay with that. When I'm walking in that front door,
Hold on just a second, Matthew. Sarah, do you mind sharing that second picture and zoom in a little bit?
Yes, sir. I'm trying to pull it up right now.
Okay, because I think that'll answer a lot of questions. It's a significant change.
it better be.
It's a complete demolition of the front office and several rooms.
Okay, so,
Okay.
okay,
So zoom
Mr.
in.
Atherton, if I walked through it first, would that be helpful?
it would be
I think-
very helpful.
I think it would be because I think it's giving context of the magnitude of change would help.
It needs to be, so walk me through it.
All right. So if you look to the right side of the picture, the outlines for the sidewalk area. Those
That where you had
outlines.
your little mouse? Just give me a minute.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I saw your mouse and I'm gonna see a door entry on the left-hand side.
Yes, sir.
Okay, take your
That
mouse.
is the existing front door.
Okay,
That is current existing front door. So now if you go around to the left, you can see a door right in the center of the wall.
yeah,
That
yes,
will
sir.
be the new front entrance right above where Sarah's pointing the mouse.
Oh, this is significant.
Yes, indeed. That will be a covered entrance. We are going to provide a canopy cover at that point.
Okay,
That door will be access only for staff and for public. You'll be buzzed in there by Ms. Receptionist.
Yes,
She
sir.
will be at the desk directly to the north of the mouse. You can see an
Okay.
L-shaped reception area. That area has a transaction window. She'll be behind a sliding window. And then bring you into the lobby. That way you can sign into Lobby Guard and be determined if you're safe to be in the building. And then you can have access further from that point. So the door just left of the L-shaped desk, that will be your access now into the principal's main area.
Yes, sir.
So we have the first office down the hallway on the left is the data manager's office. We also have a transaction window there so that that individual can see into the lobby and determine who's in the lobby. And the second and third offices would be the assistant principal and principal's office back to back. Then by this layout, we took the existing lobby and created a conference room for staff.
That's good. Okay.
And there will be a door going out into the hallway, very close to where the door is now from that hallway area into the office.
Okay.
Shifted just slightly. So in that area, that door will be monitored by staff. It can be left locked during the day with potential for card access down the road. It can be left locked so that only staff can come in. That will be a point inside the building similar to any other school at that point.
Yes, sir.
Just to the north of that, there's a mailboxes for staff, and the desk
Okay.
that's on the right of the mouse is for the location for the SRO.
Okay, that's pretty close to where they got it right now. Is that correct?
Yes, that is exactly the same place.
Okay.
They felt comfortable with that, so we left that.
I agree with them on that.
All right, so Sarah, if we can go back to the main, that's great. You see where Sarah's mouse is now. We are back in the main lobby. The one
Okay.
thing that this school suffered with was ADA compliance, and we struggled very hard to come up with a format.
You're coming in through the principal's door. I understand where you're coming from. Okay.
So now you will come in the front door of the school into the lobby. If you need the ability to have ADA compliant access, this new section to the bottom is a ramp. That ramp comes directly off the office and will bring you up to the same elevation as the hallway in the current lobby. And the door at the top of that ramp is an access control door that the receptionist will control through a buzzer. So just like you've suggested, Mr. Roberts, there will be no access in the building unless you're buzzed in.
Okay.
And that's the basic layout for Efland Shoe.
That is good. Sarah? Efland Cheeks has some HVAC concerns also. What are we doing to address those in phase 2?
We have a major HVAC contract right now that is with Sood, and Efland Cheeks is part of that. The money will become available next year, and we will phase that contract in, and Efland Cheeks is definitely covered under that. We are currently meeting with them, but we're not ready to go any further than design phases and what they have. But that will be coming in the next year. We'll roll out those contracts for Efland.
Okay, so knowing that they have the same air quality concerns that Cameron Park has, they're for phase 2 for next year.
Yes. To the CIP, that's when their funding becomes available. Cameron Parks was available to start that this summer. Efland, and I believe there are 5 other schools in the design with Sood.
There should be more schools on that. So, okay.
Yes.
That's all I have, Will.
Other questions from other board members? All right, I just had a couple of questions, just really on bar construction. Have we used them before? And then same question of, have they done other projects with schools?
We vetted them with Mosley, and Mosley had conversations with our attorney as well, with Tharrington Smith. We have not used bar on Orange County schools at this point.
Have they done other school projects before, or is this their first, or?
I'll have to ask again, Mr. Atherton. I can't answer that at this moment.
Okay, because that, I mean, you know, I just want to make sure that they've done school projects because we have a lot of compliance issues, as you've pointed out, so.
Absolutely.
All right. So I guess, Jonathan, did you have any concerns with this company?
I'm clicking in. So I do not know specifically of this company. I guess, Nick, did you talk with Rod, and did Rod check with the architect and give you information indicating that they had been favorably vetted?
Yes, that discussion was had with Ashley Dennis.
Okay. Ashley Dennis, the architect?
Yes, she's principal in charge for Mosley.
Okay.
Move the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, motion from Dr. Halkiotis and second from Matthew Roberts. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, next on the agenda is for information. First item is student fees for 2020, 2021. And it looks like either Jason Johnson or Ms. Braxton's leading.
Good evening, and both of us will be leading this conversation tonight. In terms of student fees, the purpose is to provide you with the proposed student fees for the 2020-2021 school year. As Mr. Atherton mentioned, this is an information item tonight. We are presenting the proposed student fees in compliance with Board Policy 4600, We're also doing so in complete knowledge and concern for the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on our students and families' financial situations. With that said, no student will be denied the opportunity to participate in a course or an activity because of lack of funds. If a student is unable to pay the student fee, a waiver request is provided to the parent. We expect the program administrator to notify all parents of this waiver. Feedback from our listen and learns has been that oftentimes families are not aware of the waivers, and this is adding an additional barrier for student participation. So to step up our efforts, we're going to require all program administrators to remind students and families on the actual permission/order forms that they're able to get a waiver if they cannot afford it. In addition, we're requesting that all permission/order forms will have a waiver form attached to it. Also, in the back to school package that goes home with students, we will send home a waiver form and information about waivers with every student. We are fully aware as we pick up efforts to ensure that families are aware of the waivers, there will be some budget implications for the district. And that is something that we'll work through as time passes on. Tonight, we have two documents that are attached to the abstract. One document is a 4-year comparison of student fees, and the second is the proposed fees for the 2020-2021 school year. At this time, I will briefly highlight some areas of the 4-year comparison of fees that were presented and approved in the past. Over the 4 years, you will note that the fees have been pretty consistent. We have seen some decreases in fees. We have seen decreases in areas such as Standback and CW Stanford band fees. We also saw a decrease in fees in the chorus at Gravelly Hill Middle School. Also, at both high schools, we saw a decrease in the gown fees for chorus. Now, the largest increase over the 4 years has been with Orange High School Marching Band going from $210 in 2016 to $340 in 2018 and 2019. Just as a side note, parking fees pay for parking lot security, and also in terms of driver education, school districts may charge a student fee up to $65 to offset costs in the program. Orange County Schools has charged a fee of $50 for all students for the past 3 years. These fees are utilized to offset costs for items such as instructor salaries, gas, vehicle repairs, and vehicle replacement. At this time, I'm going to ask Ms. Braxton, our Director of CT and Arts, to bring forth the proposed fees for the 2020-2021 school year.
Good evening, board members. It's really great to see you all. I miss you so much. If you will note the attachment for proposed student fees, I'd like to highlight a few items for you tonight. The document is broken down by school. The first item is the recorders for elementary school. You will note that this is a $1 increase from last year. Last year, the approved fee was $4, but the reality is the recorders cost $5. So we bring that to you this evening. I'll also like to point out that all 3 bands and art fees for the 3 middle schools are all aligned and the same. I will note that Cedar Ridge, the course uniform fee for the tuxedo, that is a major typo. That would be wonderful to get a tuxedo for $10. Obviously, a 0 was left off there. That is a $100 fee, and we will fix that. I'll also note that Mr. Johnson noted that the course uniform fee for gowns was in the $80 range. It did decrease to $60. The vendor cost for that has gone up to about $65. So we have increased that by $5. I'll also point out that the band shoes are as needed, the marching band shoes. They have been listed as $30, but again, the vendor cost for that has gone to $32. I would like to point out that Orange High School's FFA ag fee was $22, and they have reduced that to $10. And if you will note, the marching band fee for Orange High School is a to be determined, And that is because our band director for Orange High School is in the interview process, and we will be discussing the marching band for the competitive band fee with that new hire. And we would like to come back to the board with information on that. Do you have any questions about any of the proposed fees this evening?
I've got a question.
Oh, sorry, Dr. H. Hillary had her.
Oh, it's okay. He can go first.
No, go ahead, Dylan.
Thank you for this information, Shannon. It's helpful. The one thing I was had a question about is it said district laptops for grades 4 through 12, but do we charge our third graders the $20 fee?
This is Todd. We historically hadn't been because the third graders were keeping those laptops in the school. They were not taking them home. Although with a lot of the changes we're looking at, we may want to revisit that.
Okay, I was also, I'm wondering if maybe with the updates later, you're going to talk about K2 technology and whether that would impact fees for those families, if we're going to be able to keep them over the summer. I don't want to digress too much from this conversation, but they feel a little interconnected. So maybe you can speak to that briefly.
You want me to speak to that now?
It's fine if it's later. I guess I just wonder if it's possible we're going to charge K through 3 since devices are at home. If it's possible that we allow K through 2 or 3 to have their devices over the summer, will we charge them when we distribute? Have those things sort of been ironed out yet, or
Some of those things, yes, some no. So the third graders were all asked to take their devices home on March the 13th. And I believe that's been done. There's a few stragglers, but we're handling those with the swap station. In terms of the K2 devices, I think we need some more discussion at the cabinet level, particularly between IT and CNI, to really envision how those are going to be used, whether those will be taken back and forth between school and home, or whether they will be largely at-home devices for some distance learning. So I still think it's fair to say there's some more discussion there.
Okay. And maybe I should say this for later. I don't know. I am hoping to see our students be able to keep devices over the summer since we've had such a loss of learning time in the schools. And even if our teachers are not working, I'm hoping that we can get some great enrichment apps on iPads, for example, for some of our younger students. I know that there's Epic and reading materials and math games and things like that that may help some of our students who have not had access to devices at all during this period of time. But again, maybe this is a discussion for later. Sorry for derailing everyone.
Just real quick, we're letting the students keep the devices over the summer.
Awesome.
So the real challenge, the only remaining challenge, will be collecting the devices from the seniors and then prepping them for the next school year.
Thank you so much.
All right, Dr. Halkiotis.
Yeah, reference Mr. Johnson's statement that parking fees are used for parking lot security. Are the parking fees actually staying at the schools, or are they collected at the central office? Is there additional parking lot security other than the normal resource offices that are scheduled at the schools? The answer to this question has fluctuated over the years, and I'm just curious as to what it is right now.
Dr. H, from my understanding, billing comes through the finance department. The money stays at the school. The billing comes from the sheriff's department, and Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, the billing comes through finance, and then the schools pay finance back.
So, I mean, is the sheriff sending extra deputies to both high schools to monitor the parking lots?
Yes, it's been at least one in each parking lot. And it's been this past school year, it's been much more consistent than the previous years.
Okay, because it was inconsistent in the past.
Yes, sir. It's been much better.
Okay, thank you.
All right, other questions?
Recorders.
Oh,
Matthew.
Go ahead, Matthew, then we'll go to you, Hillary, again.
You can go with Hillary if you want to first.
It doesn't matter. It's good, Matthew. Go ahead.
Okay. There's two schools that are getting hit significantly with a recorder increase. Arts and music are important. How much would it cost us if we didn't charge our elementary students for recorders?
Mr. Johnson, do you have that document? If not, I'll pull that up.
Do have the document. I'm going through it right now. Give me 1 second.
And I'm going to go down each one of these. So just be patient.
I have that up if you want me to speak to it.
I would love. Yes, ma'am, please.
Ma'am.
So for Grady A. Brown, there's about 70 fourth grade students. So that's about $350. For Efland Cheeks, fourth grade, there's about 99 students. That's $495. Cameron Park, third grade is the grade that uses recorders at Cameron Park. There are 116 students in third grade, so that's about 580.
Okay.
Hillsborough Elementary uses it in third grade, and there's about 68 students, so that's 340. And Pathways uses it in fourth grade, and that's 71 students, and that's $355. Now, note that I did not speak for Central Elementary or for New Hope, and that's because New Hope does not use recorders. That teacher uses ukuleles, and she got a grant several years ago for the ukuleles. And Central Elementary intends to incorporate them. She was a new teacher this year, and she did not incorporate the recorders, but through discussions through the year, this current school year, to see what other elementaries are using, she will be putting those to practice next year.
Two issues. One, and everybody put their thick hide on, it's obvious that each elementary school has a different standard on when they're starting to introduce this particular musical instrument. Second one is we have a lot of Title I schools, and I would like to know how much it would cost us if we didn't charge our elementary students for the recorders. Now, I'm going to go to the next one now. I don't expect the answer on that tonight. When we get to our three middle school, that we have band fees, we have $25 at AL Standback for band shirt, binder, and sheet protectors. Gravelly Hills, we've got $15 for a t-shirt and binder. And at C.W. Sanford, we've got t-shirts, binder, and sheet protectors at $28. What's the difference?
Mr. Roberts, that is a document that is posted from 2016, 2017. That's on the board.
That's
the
3
one
years
that,
ago. So don't tell me about document posted for that unless we want to talk about it. I have concerns about the charges for the three high schools that are bands. And it wasn't just those that I talked about. Each one of them is significantly different. Well, if we have one middle that's better than the other middle school, I want all three middle schools offering the same. Okay.
Mr. Roberts, the proposed student fees for 2020, 2021 is attached to the abstract for tonight, and the band fees at all three middle schools are $15 each, and they're all the same.
Okay.
They all get the
Wait a
t-shirt.
minute. Give me a minute. I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet. I'm working off the spreadsheet.
Mr. Roberts, just
Go
let
ahead,
her finish.
Will.
Mr. Roberts, just let her finish her sentence.
Yes,
She's
sir.
just trying to tell you how to get to it.
So if within the abstract, there are two documents, if you'll open up the other, and then once you get there, you can ask any questions.
Give me a second. So what I want to have clarity on, the spreadsheet that I was looking at is inaccurate. I want to make sure that each one of our schools are going to have the same fees going forward.
Isn't that what it shows in the proposed student fees?
Dr. Kiotis, you do, and I apologize. But when you look at it, back is going to have a $19 proposed fee. Gravel Hill, when you look at their band, they're going to have a $15. Their art's going to have a $4, which is the same, but their chorus is going to have a $5, and the chorus is going to have a $15 t-shirt fee. So Stanford, their band fees is $15, which is the same, and the art is $4. So why is Gravelly Hill having to charge more?
They got a chorus and they're wearing t-shirts.
I got a feeling the other ones are too.
I think one guess, maybe this spreadsheet is showing up strangely on your screen, Mr. Roberts. I don't know. I don't see, you might be looking at the information. The first column on that spreadsheet is from the year 2016, 2017.
No, I'm looking at proposed student fees for 2021. Fees will not prohibit participation in any courses, and it's with school elementaries. We're all consistent on the recorders. It's going to be $5 per school. Pretty consistent on band fees. We're consistent on art, but what's the difference on the course? Hill.
Is that special choral program they have over there? They've had it for years.
Yeah, it's the Jigsaw program.
Yeah, the Jigsaw. Yeah. I bet that's what it is.
Yeah, it says that. It says there's a Jigsaw for $15, and then the standard chorus is $5.
Actually, Will, it doesn't say that on mine. With all due respect, it says Gravelly Hill band 6th grade t-shirt, $15. Art 7th and 8th grade semester, $4. Chorus, $5, and a chorus t-shirt is $15.
Yeah, I don't know. Mine
Respect on mine one, it does not say that.
It doesn't say it
Leave
on
it
mine
alone.
either, Will.
I will say that. With all due respect, it doesn't say that.
So does any other board member that has Excel see it that way, where it shows? I mean, mine says Jigsaw 44 performance.
He was just referring to the Word document, which does not say Jigsaw. The Excel document does.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking
I'm using the district website. Pull it up. It's on Simba, and that's what our public's seeing, Will.
Yeah, there's two documents attached.
I opened the one last time. I couldn't even open them.
Okay.
Now I'm through.
Okay.
They can just put Jigsaw in the proposal, then it answers the question.
It does.
Yeah.
We will need to correct the proposed student fees anyway to add the extra $0 for the gown for Cedar Ridge. So we can definitely fix that for the course t-shirt for Gravelly and make sure that we have that special course name there for Jigsaw. So I made note of those.
Let me ask a question. When you say to correct the gown for Cedar Ridge, I'm seeing $65. How much are you going to increase it to?
The tuxedo.
I'm sorry, Mr. Roberts, I misspoke. The tuxedo, the course tuxedo says $10, and we're not that lucky to get a tux.
That's over. That part's over.
Yeah.
If I could interject one thing, this is Jonathan. This is here on an information item, but board policy does require the Board of Education to approve the fees. So it would need to come back to the board. And one suggestion that I would have is that when it comes back, if you don't know at that point the to be announced fees that are listed, that perhaps you could put last year's fees in there so that the board is actually approving the fee with the understanding that you could come back at a later date and revise that in some way. Shannon, you may know when you're going to do it, but I think that they're supposed to approve them on an annual basis. And we do need to send it to the DPI as well once they're approved.
Hillary?
I just wanted to ask one more question about parking, which is if we end up being remote for some significant amount of time in the upcoming school year, I don't want to add more work to staff, but I wonder if we will prorate and refund student parking, because if we're not paying for security, I just hate for our families to have to spend more money given the strain that everyone is feeling right now.
And Ms. McKenzie, that is an awesome suggestion. I will go back and work with the high school principals in terms of coming up with a prorate plan based off of that.
If it happens, I mean, I don't know what that looks like. And again, I don't want to create something that's super difficult, but if it's feasible, I think that would be helpful.
Well, I think that needs to happen because, like you said, the fees are being paid for security. So if we don't have security there, I think we can work something out.
Yeah, I'd like to see it go back to families if possible. Thank you.
All right. I had just, Sarah, go ahead, Sarah.
Thanks. I just want to confirm, I know that we discussed this last year, and I just want to confirm it again, that if a student is joining a chorus, regardless of their gender, they will either be able to select the tuxedo option or the gown option. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then I just wanted to say thank you for taking this feedback from the Listen and Learns and like turning it right around into some like real, like great changes for this year. I think that's awesome. I wish the end of our Listen and Learns hadn't been canceled, but I just really appreciate y'all taking that and running with it. So thank you.
All right. I had just one question. Ms. Braxton, I noticed that there is no ag fees for Cedar Ridge, and I definitely know they have ag students there. Is there a reason they're not shown here?
Mr. Atherton, historically, Cedar Ridge Ag has not participated in putting the fees here on this list. I did speak with the ag teacher at Cedar Ridge, and at that time, he was just not really sure if he wanted to make that a fee for all, because students do join FFA, and they just join individually instead of a whole group. That is something that I'll be willing to go back and speak with him again, hearing your comment.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about putting a barn there and expanding the program, and I mean, this makes it real when you see the fees, right?
Yes, it does. Let me go back and speak with him again, and maybe I can bring that back to the board.
Excellent. Because as Jonathan said, it'll have to come back as a action item for approval, so we'll just address it then. All right, any other questions before we go to the next informational item? All right, thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item is end of year school year. This agenda item, board, is us trying to get all of the activities that are coming up as end of year and trying to make sure the board has visibility into what's going on in different areas. And I appreciate Dr. Felder, you and staff being able to put this together for us tonight.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Atherton. So as Mr. Jones is bringing up the PowerPoint deck that we are using tonight, can everyone hear me? Because Mr. Atherton, you are frozen on my screen.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Great. All right, stay frozen as long as you can hear me. All righty. So as Mr. Jones is bringing up the PowerPoint deck. I just want to kick off by saying that, so we know that spring brings April showers and May flowers in Orange County schools. Spring also brings a whole host of celebrations for our phenomenal staff that I am so honored and proud to serve alongside. And so while we're going to hear more about the many amazing staff we're celebrating and honoring this spring despite COVID-19, this week alone, we are celebrating our awesome teachers and nurses in a variety of ways, including yard signs, which teachers have been sharing pictures with me that are popping up in their yards. Also by way of email and videos that students are sending to show their appreciation to staff. And so at this time, we are going to begin with Ms. Connie Crimmins, who is a director of Exceptional Children, and she is going to provide an update on Autism Awareness Month, which we are observing. And that will be followed by Connie Bremer, who is the Director of Human Resources. And Mrs. Bremer is going to talk to us about all of the staff groups that we are celebrating this year. And then I'll come back on and talk about how we are going to celebrate and graduate our seniors and where we are in the planning process, because that's a lot of this. Please know that we are still in the planning stages. So we'll just provide you with an update with regards to where we are, and we welcome any comments and feedback that you have. So Mr. Jones, if you could project the PowerPoint, please.
All right, well, I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to thank the board again for the resolution passed in April recognizing Autism Awareness Month. This slide provides just a snapshot of how staff and parents celebrated students with autism. The EC department staff, students, and parents appreciate the ongoing support of the board. Now I'm going to turn this over to Connie Bremer. Thank you.
Mr. Jones, if you could project it. Good evening, Orange County Board members. As you are aware, throughout the year, Human Resources organize recognitions and celebrations for various staff groups. It is important that we celebrate all our employees and the exceptional work they do to support our students. This spring, we have celebrated Social Worker Appreciation Week, Nurses Appreciation Week, Teacher Assistant Appreciation Week, National Principal and Assistant Principal, and Child Nutrition Appreciation Week, just to name a few. Tokens of appreciation were sent to all of these various groups of employees. Of course, it goes without saying that some of our traditional celebrations have been interrupted by COVID-19. However, there is an old saying that in every crisis, if you look carefully, you will spot an opportunity. Therefore, we are seizing the opportunity to celebrate our staff in new, creative, and innovative ways. The first opportunity to do this is with our Orange County Teacher of the Year celebration. Currently, we are finishing up the selection process. We have assembled a planning team to create an exciting plan of celebration. Our planning team meets this week. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but rest assured that we have to make this a memorable event for all. Please stay tuned for more information. However, we do know that we're going to make and use our technology to make this a public event for all of us to celebrate the individual school winners as well as our overall winners. Our plans are to announce the Orange County Teacher of the Year by mid-May. Last, planning for future events normally held in June, such as our retirement banquet and our classified employee recognition program, is also underway. And if you have thoughts or suggestions, please let me know. We would love to hear them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Connie. And if I may also mention that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we are observing Mental Health Awareness Month which was started in 1949. Didn't know that. And it's designed to raise awareness about the importance of a healthy lifestyle and its preventative benefits. All right, so moving on to graduating and celebrating our seniors. I want to provide you with an update on that. So first and foremost, just want to state that we know that high school graduation represents a huge milestone in the lives of our students and their families. And just want to be very clear that graduation is not canceled in Orange County schools, but it will be different. So again, perfectly clear, our seniors will be graded and celebrated just differently than we have in the past due to COVID-19. So as I alluded to at the opening, we are in the process of planning what this graduation celebration will look like. However, please know that we will abide by all requirements to maintain the safety of our students, families, and staff members and the public as a whole. The planning process will include high schools getting input from their stakeholders, and will include a consultation with local public health officials on current state and local public health requirements. We will also seek guidance from our board attorney and local law enforcement as part of the planning process, as the guidance that was provided by the state advisor. So just know that that is the plan. And what you see on this slide are just some examples that the state has provided us with regards to what's permissible as of May 1st with regards to graduation ceremonies. In the interest of time, I won't go into, the drive-through individualized ceremony or hybrid video. Again, these are just recommended by the state with regards to their guidance, and you can click on that top link there, NCDPI, if you want to get more information about each of those. So again, our seniors will be celebrated. This schools are in the process of planning now, and we hope to be able to provide more definitive information in the very near future, but I would like to just open the floor to any suggestions or thoughts that the board has with regards to celebrating and graduating our seniors.
Board comments?
I've got a comment.
Sure.
I just saw breaking news a few minutes ago that the Randolph County Board of Education announced that their graduation ceremonies will be July 25th.
Yeah.
Past experience has taught me that once kids pass that final date, they're off and running. Various and sundry things. I know everything's changed upside down. I think what you're all looking at is wonderful. I hope you come up with something really meaningful. I wanted to praise both, maybe all three high school folks, the administrators for those yard signs. I think they mean a lot to kids. I want to thank the staffs at the schools who went out and individually put those signs in place. That was just a very wonderful thing to do. And anything else you all come up with like that, I think is huge. For many students, as you said, Dr. Felder, high school graduation is a pivotal moment in their lives.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame that much of that is going to be lost this year.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. H.
Will.
Matthew?
Dr. Felder, I appreciate all the help you've done on this. The main thing on this one is all of our high school graduates are going to remember this as being different than any of us have been through, other than a few of our grandparents. But we come up with whether it's a video or something. Hopefully, we can get as many students' pictures going in that video, show that they see their picture in the video as possible. And make sure that we remember, we have, Dr. Felder, that at one point we had 3 high schools. So just make sure all 3 of our high schools are included.
Absolutely, and they are.
Yes, ma'am. I know that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Will I have something?
Go ahead, Sarah.
So I'm excited about all of these other ways we're celebrating people. I noticed, I don't know if the deadlines have passed for this, but I saw that the News of Orange was taking like shout outs for seniors. So we should check that out. Anybody who's watching should check that out. I think that's great. I saw around social media some emails that had gone out from the at least a couple of high schools that had said like, good news, we're having an in-person graduation ceremony, which like got my pulse up. So thank you for saying that we haven't decided anything yet. I will say my orientation is to be more cautious than like the bare minimum state safety requirements from the health department. You know, I think there are things like even the 6 feet of distancing, you know, you read these articles about actually like studies show that if you're running behind someone who's running in front of you or biking or whatever, that distance should actually be like 45 feet or something like that because of the trails of air as people are moving. And so that but you won't see that in the state safety guidance, you know, and so I think that there's something about wanting to make sure that we really celebrate our seniors, make it very special, et cetera, et cetera. I would just say, I hope that we don't just stick with whatever sort of the minimum distancing requirements are from the state and how much is unknown about this disease.
Yep. Thank you. Any other comments or feedbacks, ideas, thoughts?
So Dr. Felder, I would just, the only thing I would add is, you know, we've mentioned about the students' need for this. I believe also the parents do too, as a need of passage. I've been approached by many parents that were worried, you know, that we weren't going to do graduation in some fashion. So I think it's great news that we're looking at all these alternate methods to keep the students and the families safe. And you know, it is going to be different, but I think it's the right thing, no matter what we come up with, just to be able to acknowledge them and, you know, let the parents see this passage, if you will.
Yeah. Okay.
Family members. Right. Anybody else? All right.
All right.
We're going to move into our remote learning and updates.
Yeah. So as you know, we've been maintaining a laser light focus on safety, food, learning, wholeness, and wellness. And so at this time, staff are going to provide an update in those 4 areas. And so we're going to start with safety, and that means I'm going to turn things over to Mrs. Pitts.
Good evening again, everyone. In following with our safety protocol, again, we are continuously monitoring what the CDC and the health department have to say and following their best practices. We continue to encourage our staff and community to protect themselves. All of our staff have the option to step people, especially the custodians and maintenance, if they're working. Our child nutrition and transportation staff that goes out to the public are required to wear gloves and masks. We do have sufficient supply at this time, and we do not foresee any shortages in the near future. We continue to clean our surfaces that are frequently touched, including our countertops, our doorknobs, multi-touch surfaces within the schools. We're staying up to date on all the developments in our community. We continue to work with our nurses to create precautions outbreak. And we are also assessing our community members at high risk, and we're planning accordingly for our return to work. What I wanted to say was the CDC has always stated that 2 to 14 days after exposure for symptoms, and those symptoms being shortness of breath, but they have recently released their additional symptoms. So if you have 2 or more of these potential symptoms, you may be positive for COVID, and we are sharing these, or we have shared these with principals. We will share these with staff also. Those symptoms are fever, chills, repeated shaking with chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, and loss of taste and or smell. So those are all symptoms that if you have 2 or more of those, it may be that you are testing positive for COVID. So during a recent Orange County partner conference call regarding Orange County's efforts in response to COVID-19, there was discussion of a recent New York Times article, which was released, I believe, on April 24th, titled 5 Ways to Monitor Coronavirus Outbreak in Metro Areas in the U.S. The reason I'm saying this is because the Durham-Chapel Hill area was listed as the highest increase in daily death rates of all metro areas in the U.S. They were an increase of 43%. And what that means is our death rate was doubling every 1.9 days. So growth rates are useful measures in an epidemic because they tell us whether or not things are getting better or worse. When growth rates are, but numbers of death are relatively low, which is what we are experiencing right now, a community may have time to flatten its curve before an outbreak becomes widespread pandemic. So it's important for us to reiterate to our public who are watching, to our fellow colleagues, to everyone that this is the time to stay home, follow CDC guidance, and practice proper social distancing if they have to go out. That way, we can all enjoy a nice spring and hopefully be able to return to normal or more normal come summer or fall. At this time, we are also still working with the health departments in tracking our symptoms. At this time, Orange County Schools currently has 6 employees that are quarantined due to a potential non-direct exposure. After those employees were told about this, none of them had reported to work, so there is no chance of contact with coworkers. We will continue to monitor those 6 employees, work with the nursing staff in the health department on when they can return to work. The district continues to discuss and work on our return to work procedures for staff and students, especially those who are at high risk. And we will also evaluate if, how, and when staff and students can re-enter the buildings to pick up their personal items. That's all I have for the COVID update on safety. Are there any questions for me?
Comment.
Yes, sir.
Would you please forward me that New York Times article? I'd like to read it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Okay, then I will pass it to Ms. Sharita Cobb, who is going to discuss our feeding food efforts.
Good evening again, board members. Again, we want to come before you tonight and just talk about the food efforts that we have been endeavoring these past few weeks. So as of April 28th, we have provided 36,151 breakfast lunch meal combinations at our 13 feeding sites. As of May 4th, 2020, we've had over $11,000 has been donated for food through the K-12 Payment Center. And we just want to continue to thank the community for their generosity in helping us to support our families who may be in need of food during this time. We also want to, let me just backtrack and say, we want to thank our transportation as well as our child nutrition workers who are on the front line, making sure that our children get those meals. And so we are very appreciative and thankful to them for that and for their effort in that endeavor. To date, we have also, as a result of the K-12 payment, been able to provide 865 supplemental food boxes to our families throughout Orange County or the Hillsborough area. And so we also would like to just give you an update. We had a new donor that stepped up, and Hillsborough Domino's Pizza provided 937 pieces of pizza last week for us to add to our supplementary food boxes. So we were able to give those out, as well as we have now started to work with the North Carolina State University Creamery through the Cooperative Extension Program to purchase milk so that we can include those in those supplemental boxes. We continue to provide our social workers with support as far as making sure that they have that protective gear, gloves, mask, and hand sanitizer when they are making these home visits, as well as making sure that they are not entering any homes. And we also want to say thank you as we continue to try to meet those needs of our students and families, to law enforcement for being a constant support in what we're doing for our children. Are there any questions for me?
Comment?
Matthew?
Sharita, thank you for the update. One thing that would be helpful is knowing that our child nutrition budget may be stretched a little bit. It would be helpful to know of the 36,000 meals that we have provided, how much did that cost the school board, the school district? Just so that everybody's aware that there's some cost provided with that. So that's my comment, but thank you for doing this. And I have seen everybody out giving the food out. That's very positive.
All right, Sarah?
Yes, I echo the thanks, Ms. Cobb, for everything that you're doing, and our SROs and everyone to support this effort. I saw a stat today that Chapel Hill Schools has served like 144,000 meals. And I'm trying, do you have any idea, like I'm curious what we know about what they're doing or what our family's challenges are, whether we're meeting like all the needs. I don't know. It was just it was a different number, and I was surprised to see that. So I don't know if you know anything that would sort of let us know why you think that is.
So Sarah may be able to help me with this, but I believe that they are running bus routes, Sarah, and they are using the their foundation to purchase food, so they can purchase food at a greater amount to be able to give out a little bit more as far as that is concerned. So we are supplementing what our social workers are already giving out, and I think what they are able to do is on a larger scale based on their foundation and the fact that they are able to run bus routes to deliver some of that food.
Comment?
Yes, and if I'm not mistaken, Chapel Hill is running their food service out of their contracted kitchen areas. They're doing a contract with local businesses in order to provide the food, so numbers can go up higher. They have businesses that are creating those. And then they are working with county organizations and their bus routes to transport all of that food from those two central sites where they're prepping to the rest of the feeding sites. So they are utilizing a lot more of the county partners and the local businesses with contracts and not their kitchen staff like we are. So they're pulling in a whole lot more of the community. And I know that they're utilizing Porch, I believe, in a couple other community sites to help them with those efforts. Sharita and I have been in contact with Chapel Hill and the mass feeding group for Orange County to figure out how we can get our reach the people that we're not currently reaching and be able to sustain feeding till hopefully the fall like they're encouraging us to do.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Comment?
Sarah, do you have another comment or question?
No, I think that's helpful information. Thank you.
Okay, Matthew?
Sarah, where Chapel Hill, Carborough may be using their bus services, the state of Virginia, rural counties and the mountains are using their buses to deliver meals to bus stops.
All right, other questions or comments from board members? I would just like to add, Sharita, thank you. I did get the chance to talk at a safe distance to one of the feeding sites, and they just shared with me how the procedures, how safe it was, how comfortable they were with distribution of food, and how happy they were to see the excitement on people's faces as they were able to drive up and put food in their trunk, and how happy these families are. So you know, we are making a significant difference in our community. And so thank you to everybody and the staff that's making this happen each and every day.
Yes, sir. Thank you. If there are no other questions, then I will be turning it over to Dr. Gammon.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cobb. Good evening to everyone. Dr. Keeling and I will provide an update on remote learning and the initial phases of planning for the formal end to the 1920 school year, as well as summer learning and re-entry plans for the 2021 school year. We will take questions at the end of our segment on learning. As shared previously, this week begins the start of the next phase of remote learning in the district. For the third round of choice boards, which were released today, the remote learning team continued to supplement through activities involving previously taught concepts. The team did begin the transition to asynchronous learning by embedding at least one video focusing on previously taught concepts or new concepts to gain experience with the video creation process before a larger transition to asynchronous learning occurs during our round 4 of the remote learning work. And while asynchronous learning will be introduced on a small scale during the weeks of May 4th and May 11th, the district's remote learning team and all respective teachers have been strongly encouraged to increase pre-teaching of critical concepts from 3rd and 4th quarter to elicit student engagement and best prepare students for the transition to their next grade level or content area. All future choice boards and teacher-created activities will reflect more pre-recorded lessons. All of the activities, choice boards, and asynchronous learning opportunities developed by the remote learning team will be posted on the Orange County Schools remote learning site. There are also alternate assignments that are embedded onto choice boards for students who do not have digital access to be able to access those videos. So we are keeping with that theme through our paper copy rollout. As in the previous phases of the district's evolving remote learning model, this next phase doesn't seek to replicate the classroom experience, as we still can't teach content live at a certain time on a particular day. Asynchronous learning reflects student needs as they can access content when their schedule allows. It focuses on short bits of information with interactive opportunities. These lessons are addressing one concept at a time and helping students understand the material in chunks. We do realize that our students and families' schedules, internet access, home learning environments, other critical factors will vary. We are focused on providing many opportunities to support learning. And additionally, teachers are expected to continue to have virtual office hours to check in with and engage with students using a number of platforms. As you can see on this slide, we've linked 3 how-to help guides for staff and families to assist in this transition to phase 3. These were created by our secondary digital learning coaches who have done a fantastic job, along with our elementary digital learning coaches, serving as anchors of support during this remote learning experience. Within the first link, and Mr. Jones, I believe, is going to click on the first link to the help guide for staff. We've identified critical areas of focus. We've also identified, as Mr. Jones, if you will scroll down slowly, we've identified critical areas of focus, what a typical week of remote learning could look like, as well as many links to distance learning resources such as Khan Academy, Edpuzzle, Canvas, Google Classroom, and more. So families have received links through this one-stop shop. It's being posted on our remote learning site, as well as shared out through our Connect Ed messaging and teacher outreach. These will help, or these tools will help our families navigate the remote learning tools, such as Google Hangout, Zoom, Canvas, BrainPop, UNC TV's learning options, and much more. And our staff is also going to receive tutorials through these one-stop shops to help them to engage in these platforms as well. As an aside, it's important to emphasize that we have spent at this point $28,388.24 through the first 2 rounds of printing for the first 2 rounds of choice boards. This total does not include the 3rd round that was published today, and we will have those totals by tomorrow. Beyond the cost for printing, we've also spent over $3,000 in postage, and Rhonda Rath may be able to provide more current numbers with that. But that postage is to ensure, obviously, that students without internet access receive paper copy materials. We have noted that 1,204 requests for paper copies have come through per round, and 1,052 of those requests have been marked to be mailed. We've also noted approximately 1,200 packets as being picked up from the distribution sites per round. Mr. Jones, if you will, you can go back to the main presentation and then go to the next slide. On the next slide, we've captured, on the next slide, we've captured that in order for us to close gaps and accelerate learning for students through this challenging time, it's critically important for us to better understand where our students are in the remote learning process and where there are significant gaps in student need. Later in this presentation, I will share specific data points about student learning, connectivity, and communication from a survey that was distributed to all OCS teachers. Data from the survey, along with other data sources, will drive our continued remote learning decisions. A team with a cross-representation of individuals from across the system has been formed under the leadership of Dr. Keeling to plan summer learning opportunities and the re-entry plan for the 2021 school year. At this time, Dr. Keeling will share next steps about the initial phase of work with this team.
Good evening, everyone. As I made everyone aware at the last board meeting, and as Dr. Gammon said, we have assembled a team that consists of teachers, administrators, student support professionals, and district leaders. And our focus is on closing gaps, both pre and post COVID-19 gaps, and accelerating learning. And we are ensuring that our centered student groups remain centered. And so the way that we did that was that we began by reviewing some articles. Each of the articles focused on learning for our specific student groups. So we started off with 3 articles, one that focused on African-American students, one that focused on students living in poverty, and one that focused on emergent bilingual. And each of those articles spoke to the role of schools and different strategies and learning techniques. And so that kind of structured our minds around what do we need to do for our student groups? What do we need to do to close gaps and accelerate learning? And so we then discussed strategies that resonated with us. And we focused our discussion around the following questions. What should all schools be expected to do with regard to reconnecting with staff, students, and families? How will we assess where students are? How does pedagogy need to change after COVID-19 to close achievement gaps and improve outcomes for students? And how will we deliver support and instruction? As with everything in this time, this is an ever-evolving process, and I will continue to update the board on our progress. But some of our next steps that have been identified from the discussion include some different topics for teacher professional development. As Dr. Gammon mentions, we are beginning to look at providing intervention before summer even starts. What are some things that we can start doing from now until June, where we can begin to start closing gaps and putting some interventions in place? We are also looking at developing a summer learning plan that will utilize research-based curriculum that has documented success with our centered student groups. We're also thinking about, in terms of our next steps, the development of a comprehensive remote learning plan. And I believe that actually this morning, Governor Cooper signed into law measures that included the requirement for districts to submit a remote learning plan. So we will heading in the right direction by saying that we were going to do that. Even the components that we looked at when I looked at what the and Governor Cooper signed were components that we had already outlined as things that we would like to begin to look at. We're also looking at the development of a school reentry, incorporation of technology plan within remote learning, school reentry plan, and the development of a social emotional learning plan. So again, as I said, it's ever evolving. And so I will give you updates, but we are developing our plans and strategies with the mindset of not going back to normal. A lot of people talk about going back to normal, but we're focused on not going back to normal because normal didn't work for all of our students. Normal created the gaps that COVID-19 has illuminated. So that's kind of an outline of where we are. Are there any questions for either Dr. Gammon or for me?
So while the rest of the board thinks.
Will, I have several comments.
Go ahead, Matthew.
Okay. Again, I'm gonna swing to other school districts. And I'm being very careful how I say this with it, so I don't insult anybody. But if I didn't report on, I saw an update on how many meals we get, which is important. But our primary focus is educating the children. I didn't see a report, and I asked for it at the last board meeting, on how many contacts did we actually have with students. I did hear a comment that we were going to have a plan coming forward. But I have children who already have a plan coming forward, that they've been doing Zoom meetings. They have done exams. They have had new curriculum introduced to them. We haven't. And I'm a little upset with it. That we're coming in and we're going to have some with the internet, trying to see whether or not we can get our students on the internet. We had a comment about how much it was costing us to do the printed copies. That's our responsibility. And that's where I'm coming from. We're not meeting the needs of the education for our students. Dr. Felder, I heard you talking.
No, I didn't say anything yet. I'm waiting.
At some point, we have to start introducing new curriculum to our students. The budget that we presented to the county commissioners included a significant amount of money for summer. We can't continue to just say that, hey, we expect the students to do their homework. Teachers need to be interacting with their students on a daily basis. And unfortunately for the Orange County School District, they haven't had that. And if they've had new curriculum, correct me. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. May I comment now, Mr. Roberts?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate your comments. And so just a couple of things I would say, and I want to preface this by saying we may need to agree to disagree, but we believe that Students learn in a variety. That students learn in a variety of ways. Students can learn from practice opportunities, from review. Students can learn from enrichment and extension activities, and they've certainly been provided and afforded that opportunity. Our remote learning plan in the district is evolving. Just as COVID-19 has evolved, it's evolving for us. This is all new to us, just like it's new to everyone else. And we are doing the very best that we can with what we have, the resources that we have. Yes, learning is a priority, but so is feeding children. Children are not going to learn if they're hungry. Children are not going to learn if their social emotional needs are not met. So for us, focusing on those things are equally as important as focusing on the learning. With regards to exposure to new content, this phase of remote learning is providing that. This new phase of remote learning is providing students with access to end of third quarter, fourth quarter critical content standards that have been identified by the district staff. And so it's being provided, as Dr. Gammon and Dr. Keeling have both mentioned, in an asynchronous manner, because not only are our students are coping with, and families, and have various schedules and various things that they are working through with COVID-19, so are our staff. And but our teachers are expected to, and they are reaching out to their students and connecting with their students in a variety of ways. They amaze me with the ways that they are connecting with their students. In fact, and I hope you don't mind that I share this, Ms. McKenzie. Mrs. McKenzie texted me.
Of course not.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead. Yes, I was just saying, of course I don't mind. Please share.
So you texted me a picture. You texted me a picture of your son's teacher going above and beyond the call of duty. Showed up at your house, and with good old social distancing, it was just a beautiful thing to see. Engaging with your student out on the lawn. You're on a blanket with food. She's on a blanket with food, separated. I can't ask any more about teachers. That's the kind of thing that they are doing. They have stepped up in a way that I'll put them up against any teachers in any district anywhere. Our teachers have, our principals have, our bus drivers, our TAs, you name it, they're doing it. The central office staff. We are doing, I believe, a great job. So I guess we'll have to disagree on this one. But I stand firm in the work that we've done. As I said, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. Have there been hiccups? Absolutely, there have been hiccups. But our work is evolving, and what I believe is going to happen is that learning from all of this, while it may seem like a challenge on the outside, it is providing us with such an opportunity. I can assure you, as long as I'm superintendent, we will not be in this position again should we have to move into remote learning in the future. As long as we're provided with the resources that we need, we're going to what we are experiencing now to make things better for all kids going forward, as Dr. Keeling alluded to. So with that, I open the floor for any additional comments.
Will,
can I just say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Great. One thing Matthew had brought up was wanting to know more information about our contact with students and how much they're doing the assignments. And that is on a future slide of this presentation. And so I want to thank the district for taking that feedback from us. And maybe it was already part of your plan, right? But moving on it. I think the thing that it has not been perfect, but the thing that I have been really, really impressed by is the spirit of continuous improvement here, right? So like, what are we learning in this phase of it, and how do we make this better? I echo Dr. Felder's amazement at our teachers, and that's what it is going to take. I think is continuously learning. So I'm interested to look at that data in a couple of slides. Just wanted to point that out and to say thank you.
Will?
Matthew?
Okay, Dr. Felder, I appreciate your update. And actually, I appreciate the update that one of the teachers have actually came out and sat with one of our board members to make sure that their children are getting current instruction. But with all due respect, how many other students had a teacher come out and do that? I don't expect a response, but I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.
All right, Hillary? Hillary?
I don't want to engage too much in this. I just want to say that I want to echo Dr. Felder also, that I am so grateful and blown away by the staff and the teachers in this district. And I 100% do not believe that this teacher was on my lawn with my boy, because I'm a board member. And I've never been more grateful for teachers, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Thank you, Hillary. I'm just going to step in too and say, Dr. Felder, you know, I'm hearing about all kinds of unique things that teachers are doing and stepping up. I heard from a parent today that's in their child has an IEP and they're taking speech therapy, and the speech therapist sent them a document with directions on how to do this virtual zoo and how to work through it. And they had pictures and things for them to do as they took this virtual tour. And I would say that I'm amazed that where we're at and where we're going in such a short time from zero. I think, you know, as Ms. Smiley brought up, we're resetting the bar every time, you know, as we see the numbers and we see the items and we just keep raising it. And, you know, the stories I'm hearing from parents, you know, are amazement. And the other thing I just put out there is, you know, the teachers can only take this so far. You know, we have a lot of substitute teachers now in the district that are at home, you know, having to, you know, set the children up, get them online, making sure they're focused, you know, and, you know, this goes back to takes a village. It takes all of us. And I just want to say that I'm very proud of where Orange County is. I appreciate all the hard work of the staff. And the only other question I had, and I really don't want this to be a headline statement, but I have read some articles that, you know, there are, you know, researchers out there saying that one of the ways that's foreseen for us to catch up, not Orange County, but students, that is moving to a year-round program to try to help become more proficient and catch up. Has things like that been discussed as y'all are looking forward on the next school year? And, you know, because I agree we need to look at different ways of approaching this. And I'm not saying that year round is the way to do it, but there's obviously advantages to that and the ability for intercession to catch up and add resources and things like that. So I'm just curious, from the standpoint of learning, has that been a item discussed?
Comment.
Will, comment.
Comment.
Hold on, let me let them answer. Jeez.
Dr. Killing, do you want to respond?
So I did kind of draft out a plan of what it would look like if we could go at least for next year, like through the year. But I am not familiar enough with how calendars work and how all of that approval works. But it is something that I did sketch out. I just don't know. Someone else would have to speak to our ability to be able to do that.
Yeah, I was just
Well,
more curious if it was, yeah, just a second, Matthew, let me finish, please. So all I was trying to find out, Dr. Keeling, is if y'all are looking, at all the possibilities to help the kids, and it sounds like that is one that y'all are looking at. So I appreciate that.
So, Mr. Atherton, if I might interject here, nothing's off the table. We are looking at everything and anything. We are looking at other districts. Other districts are looking at us. Again, this is totally brand new territory. We have no precedent. We have no benchmark. Again, so there's nothing that we will not consider. We look forward to sharing the plans as they continue to evolve.
Thank you. I'll go to Dr. H and then Matthew.
Well, as the only trained historian on this school board, and as the oldest and perhaps wisest member of elected officialdom in this county, and I'm being modest, this event going on in this country today is totally unheralded since the inception of this country, period. I am totally amazed at the job that Dr. Felder and her wonderful group of people have done, and the volume of work they've done, the level of parental appreciation that I hear out there. Parents are just totally in awe. They have really not understood what teachers really do. But boy, are they understanding it now. The fact of the matter is, you start looking at these updates that the superintendent has been providing. This meeting could go on till midnight. Listen to Dr. Gammon, and the man is a walking encyclopedia of educational academia. Ad nauseum, I will add that also with due respect, okay? You could go on forever like an Energizer battery. The fact that these people have pulled all of this stuff together in a relatively short period of time, in addition to feeding the public, not just the students, but the public at large, is huge. I can't tell you how huge it is. None of us, including all of you younger members of the board, will be around to read the final historical description of what happened in the year 2020. And I'm afraid it may be going on for a couple of more years. But this school board administration has been Herculean in its response and magnanimous in what it's been doing, in addition to carrying on the regular business of the school system. My hat is off to all of you down there for what you've done. But we cannot replace every responsibility that society has towards its children single-handedly. People are chipping in from all over. It's unheralded. You guys are doing one heck of a job. Keep up the good work. You are representing the school system in the highest possible manner, and I am extremely proud of each and every one of you. End of statement.
Thank you, Dr. H. Matthew?
Okay, Will, I'm simply asking for a report. And the two things I heard for Dr. Gammon and Dr. Geelan were that it's anecdotal, that they're not telling me what results are we getting. I want a report to say how many students are actually turning in their homework, how many students are completing class assignments. I'm not even sure that we were giving class assignments.
It's on page 13 of 21.
So if I may just ask that we advance to that portion of the presentation. So I know that Mr. Jones was to go next and give a technology update, but perhaps this.
I'm going to do, Dr. Fielder, with all due respect.
Yes, sir.
Is Mr. Jones going to tell me how our students are completing classes?
What? No, that would be Dr. Gammon. And So I'm asking that we skip over the next section, which is on technology, and if we have time, we can loop back to that, but in a couple of slides. So Mr. Jones, could you advance to the slides?
Page 13.
So this slide and the next slide, and the next slide. The next slide too. Yeah, so these are the 3 slides that we want to talk, but we can start here if you'd like. Dr. Gammon, do you want to start here, or would you prefer that we start with?
Yeah, this is fine.
Okay.
So in an effort to better understand specifics around student learning and connectivity, we provided a 4-question survey to all Orange County schools teachers. The survey.
Okay, Dr. Gammon, with all due respect, if we're going to run out of time here, Will, just
please let him finish.
If you don't recognize me, I'll back off.
Please let him finish his sentence, Matthew. Just let him finish.
Finish the sentence. Don't go in details yet. I'm going to ask a question.
So the survey has afforded our team a wealth of critical information that we will be reviewing with principals during our weekly meeting tomorrow. Do you want me to pause there?
Please. I have the student learning data in front. Less than 6% of the subgroups are not able to be connected with. I accept that. All schools have confirmed two-way communication with 70% of our population. What kind of communication are we having with our students?
So that's what's noted in the survey. So I'm going to go down through.
Go down through it and get me to it.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I'm going step by step through this. It'll take me a few minutes to get to each section.
Will, I have a request.
Yes.
Could we please listen to the full presentation and then ask board questions?
I got to plug up one of my 2 iPads.
Excellent. So let's try to go through the presentation. Hold all questions and comments till we get all the data.
Will, I agree with you.
Few minutes. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Gammon, and please just do some of the highlights, if you would, instead of going line by line, if you don't mind.
Okay. So as you'll see, the student learning, the survey data highlights are on the screen here. We're going to go through those highlights first, and then we're actually going to go take a deeper dive into the actual data itself. And I'll be able to go through some more specifics at that point in time. For our elementary schools, we had a 99.23% completion rate by teachers, less than 6% across all schools and all subgroups at the elementary level have not been able to connect at least once with students. All schools have confirmed two-way communication for over 70% of the population. More than 70% of students across all schools and all subgroups are completing some or all assignments. 7% of the total student population is noted not having internet, whereas 12% of the total student population, we are still uncertain at this time if they do or do not have internet access. That's at the elementary level. At the middle grades level, we had a 91% completion rate by teachers. As you can see, less than 5% across all schools and all subgroups have not been able to connect at least once with students. 50% or more of students across all subgroups have completed no assignments or a limited amount of assignments. And 63% of the total population have regular internet access, but we are still unsure about 27% of the student population at the middle grades. And for high school, we only surveyed grades 9 through 11. So there's a 95.43% completion rate from teachers. Again, less than 6% across all schools and all subgroups have not been able to connect at least once with students. 75% of the population, grades 9 through 11, have completed some or all of their assignments. 25% of the population, grades 9 through 11, have not completed assignments. And then 75% of the population have regular internet connectivity at the high school level. So you can definitely see a correlation there between the internet connectivity and the actual completion of assignments at the high school level. What I would like to do is to be able to take a deeper dive into the survey, if that works for folks, and I can go down through some specifics. Obviously, I'm not going to go through the entire survey in an exhausting fashion. I just want to make sure that you all understand how to navigate through it so that when you're looking at it at a later time, you'll be able to kind of look at what we're seeing as well. Does that work for everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, please continue.
Okay. So, Mr. Jones, if you'll click on the student learning data, the link there, the 4 questions that we provided for teachers are, number 1, what level of communication have you had with the student since March 13th? The second question, what has been the primary means of communication? Third question, how much work has the student completed of the learning tasks / choice boards since March 13th? And then the fourth question, during remote instruction time, has the student had access to the internet? The slide that we are currently viewing, within the survey, I do want to first direct your attention. If you look at the bottom bar, the bottom tabs, each of the 4 questions is tabbed differently. So, for example, elementary school is tabbed ESQ1, and that means it's elementary school question 1. Question 2 would be tabbed ESQ2, and so on all the way up through high school through the 4 questions. As you can see, the survey compiled data by percentage across all grade levels collectively for each individual school and for each subgroup collectively across schools. So you can kind of see those in 3 different chunks there vertically on the screen. At the top of the spreadsheet, you will see column F, okay, column F at the top. Within this column, the overall student population for each category is listed. This will enable you to compare the percentage against the total population for each category. So for time purposes this evening, I will not review the specifics of every tab, but I would be remiss if I did not dig a little bit deeper to provide you some guidance in how to navigate the survey. So on this particular screen for elementary school question 1, the question states, what level of communication have you had with the student since March 13th? A rating of 0 means there has been no communication possible at all. A rating of 1 means communication has been one-way, teacher-initiated contact. A rating of 2 means there has been some two-way communication. And then a rating of 3 means there's been two-way communication with the student and family on a regular basis. So as you notice, if you look down to the subgroup area under ethnicity, a total of 88% of white students out of a population of 1,722 across all elementary schools have been identified as having some two-way or regular two-way communication from their teacher by basically adding the response from 2 and the response from category 3 together. That gave us that total of 88%. So that means there's been either some two-way or there has been regular two-way together for 88% of the population. 10% of white students have been contacted one way without response. And you will notice that really less than 0.5%, there has been no communication possible at all. Below that, a total of 69% of Black students out of a total population of 429 across all elementary schools have been identified as having some two-way or regular two-way communication from their teachers. 27% of Black students have been contacted one way without response. And you can see that for each one of the subgroup populations as you go down. So when comparing the data from question 1 to the data from question 4, I'm going to have Mr. Jones now click on ESQ4. That question notes, during remote instruction time, has the student had access to the internet for learning? A 0 means no. A 1 means yes, but not at home or not consistently. A 2 means yes, at home or consistently. And then a 3 is unsure. All right, so 84% of white students have consistent internet at home, with 5% we are still unsure about based off of this survey. 53% of Black students have consistent internet at home, with 23% that we are still unsure about. And you can see that process, it keeps going down for the other subgroup categories there. So,
Dr. Gammon, I apologize. I'll need a motion to extend the meeting if we want to continue the.
Motion to extend meeting.
About how far? How long?
10 minutes.
20 minutes.
10 minutes only. I'm not.
10 minutes.
I'll go with
All right,
10.
take a
Motion to approve 10.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Matthew Roberts, a second by Sarah. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Now, Will, now
Extended
we've
for 10 minutes.
extended it for 10 minutes. I want to ask some questions.
No.
There's eight.
Matthew,
There's
I'm
other
not going to
board
recognize.
members.
Matthew, I'm not going to
We've heard
recognize
enough.
you. I'm not going to recognize you
It's
until
fine,
we
Will.
finish the presentation. After we finish the presentation, we will.
He needs to give us 5 minutes to ask questions.
All right, Gammon, please continue.
okay. So we've looked at question 1 and question 4, and the reason that I'm setting it up in this way is to show how we are working to triangulate this data. So again, it's not us digging fully into it this evening. I want you to have that time to be able to look at the data, as a team and collect or individually. We've looked at question 1 and question 4. Question 3, and I'm going to have Mr. Jones click there. How much work has the student completed of the learning task or choice boards assigned since March 13th, which we know is a really critically important question. A 0 meaning student has not completed any assignments. 1, the student has completed a very limited number of assignments. 2, the student has completed most assignments. And then a 3 rating means the student has completed every assignment. And so again, staying with the theme of looking at the subgroups, 74% of white students have completed most or all assignments. 41% of Black students have completed most or all assignments. And you can see, again, the same trend in those numbers as you work your way down. And so if we work to triangulate this data, it can provide us some clarity, but it also may provide us an opportunity to ask probing questions, which is really the heart of giving surveys. We want to be able to investigate with our principals and our school level teams so we can develop and operationalize strategic responses that actually meet the individual needs of students. So for example, if we've had consistent two-way communication with 69% of our Black students, we've identified that only 41% have completed most or all of their assignments. That informs us of a need to target a portion of students that we have been able to access to ensure that they are keeping up with their work and providing ways for them to share their work if they are completing it via paper copy. Also, if we've noted that 27% of our Black students have been communicated with one way by teachers without response, that closely aligns with our data point that we are unsure of internet capability for 23% of our Black students. So again, this data, it's going to help us dive deeper into the individual student needs. I do want to be very specific about this, that this is, while it's just a small snapshot of the overall data, it's really important to highlight that we now have targeted data from almost every teacher in Orange County schools, capturing the current status of every student, which enables us to really drill down to those individual students to inform the feedback that we will be providing families at the end of the school year per NCDPI's direction. This data, along with other data pieces, will also better prepare us to meet the needs for those individual students through summer learning opportunities and to be proactive in how we meet student needs when developing master scheduling and the reentry plan for students next year. So I do want to be very clear that if a middle or a high school student, for example, is served by multiple teachers, every one of those teachers completed this survey about that individual student, which gives us multiple data points about connectivity for each child. And we now have that in a spreadsheet format to where we can look to the specific kid, to their name, and we can see this is what connectivity has looked like, this is what the work productivity has looked like, and it will inform the team that Dr. Keeling is working with, as well as our remote learning team and just our overall organization to make some strategic moves moving forward. So are there questions about the survey at this time that I can be helpful with?
Do we have anybody?
Question, but I have a comment.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you again for doing this survey. A couple of comments. One, I do think, board, as you look at this, like the most pertinent information to look at, I think, is that bottom section and some of the differences that we see there. You see differences by school, but you see the differences by ethnicity across all of the grade levels. So it is not about what a particular school is doing. It is about a pattern that is happening across the system. So that's one point. Another point is that, you know, this is not indicative of something about our students. It's information so that we can improve our practice and control all of the levers that we have as a district to do something about this data. This data is really, really concerning to me, but I'm really glad that we have it. And I have a couple of suggestions, specific suggestions, in terms of next steps as you look at this and as you think about plans for the rest of the school year, the summer, and reopening. And that is really like, there is a need for strong partnership with families more than ever right now. As a parent, I think there are things that could make all of this much easier for me. Like if you put the choice boards up on Friday, then I have the whole weekend to do my planning of my schedule versus if they come on Sunday night. But I'm not trying to just share my perspectives. I think you need to like think like a parent. If you're a parent, think like one, and you need to like get more connected with parents as partners in this to inform the future of what we're doing here, including forming a parent advisory council, randomly calling like 30 parents and asking them about their experience with this, either totally randomly or specifically targeting some of these particular subgroups where we're seeing like the biggest gaps. Like just call a bunch of people randomly and ask them what's, you know, what's challenging, what's working. And then the final thing I'll say is I strongly, strongly suggest we start standards-based grading next year. It's done in a lot of districts. I think Hillsborough might be doing it. As a parent, if I understood specifically which knowledge and skills my kid has gaps in, I could be a lot more helpful in helping to address those. So thank you for the data. Those are a few suggestions. I will also email them to you.
Thank you.
All right, other questions?
Okay, Will.
All right, Matthew.
Comments?
Go ahead, Matthew.
We have highlighted that we continue with coronavirus to have a discrepancy between our upper and lower income students. Internet access. What are we going to do this summer to get our students caught up? We've had our survey. We know that majority of our students, when I look at question 3, aren't doing their homework. And it's not new homework. What are we going to do this summer to get them caught up so that they're on schedule for the grade level they're supposed to be next year? We've had our surveys. We've had opportunities to learn that remote learning is a challenge. We have to have something this summer to catch them up. And we put something in our budget for that. Let's get it in there and let's hear about it.
So, may I please respond?
Yes,
ma'am. Dr. Felder, we are out of time.
Oh, okay.
So I think we have to go back to closed session on another one, if I'm not mistaken.
No, there's not a closed session after this.
Okay. Then one last question.
Sorry, Mr. Roberts, we are physically out of
Motion
time.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we had a motion from Hillary and a second from Dr. Halkiotis. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So, Will, how long did we extend?
We extended 10 minutes and we're at 11.
Okay.
So I appreciate
My
everybody.
question is, what's the role of the district versus principals in addressing this shortfall?
We're adjourned.
Meeting's adjourned. I think we need to stop.
You're going to have to email your question.
Well, I thought
Everyone, thank you.
I misunderstood.
Thank you. Good night.
Just adjourn the meeting, Matthew.
We're over. I'm okay with that.
Yes. Bye.
Good, Will. Hey. I don't have to be careful anymore. They adjourned it on me. Hey, if you're on